Chapter 1133. After all, she was the soul of a descendant of a deity. A little carelessness would cause her to escape. You want to exchange me for God Kylan? Xianran suddenly understood Su Yu's intention. He had never thought of escaping from the beginning. He pretended to escape, but in fact, he planned to capture her alive to exchange her for God Kylan. Staring at Su Yu's deep eyes, Xianran suddenly felt that this Jiuzhou barbarian had extraordinary calmness and wisdom. Since she was captured alive, the other 200 mortal fairies stopped in their tracks for fear of harming her. Su Yu suppressed her soul into the soul space in front of them and said, "Go back and find someone who can talk to exchange for God Kylan. Well, I suggest you pay attention to the person you find." The 200 mortal fairies were embarrassed, but they all understood the meaning of Su Yu's last sentence. There were several successors under the crane deity. If Xianran, the favored successor, died, those successors would have a chance. Therefore, if they were asked to negotiate an exchange for God Kylan, Xianran would be harmed. "How can I contact you?" a mortal fairy asked. Su Yu threw out a communication jade pendant and said, "This jade pendant can only receive messages, not send messages. Therefore, I can only inform you where to meet, when to exchange, and how many people to bring, all according to my decision, unless you don't want to kill Xianran. In addition, if anything happens to God Kylan, Xianran will have to pay double the price. Therefore, don't try to find out my weaknesses and flaws by searching my soul." A few meticulous mortal fairies couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This audacious kidnapper was really calm. If they wanted to rescue Xianran safely, not only could they not hurt God Kylan, but they also had to strictly guard against other successors of the crane deity who had ulterior motives. The 200 mortal fairies hurried back anxiously. When everyone was gone, the Duanshan Cliffmaster stared at Su Yu and said, "You are really losing money by doing this." Even if God Kylan was rescued, kidnapping a deity's descendant, in a sense, violated their bottom line in the area ruled by hundreds of deities. This was absolutely a taboo. Not to mention how the crane deity would retaliate against him in the future. Even other deities would find it difficult to tolerate Su Yu. Before he could gain a firm foothold in the Great Eastern Alliance, he had already lost his shelter. This transaction was undoubtedly a loss. Su Yu smiled and said, "Some things can't be measured by gains and losses. Without God Kylan, as a person of the Jiuzhou cavern world, would I still be who I am now?" The Duanshan Cliffmaster looked deeply at Su Yu, and after a long time, he revealed a faint smile. "You're not a qualified businessman, but you must be a qualified man. Very good. Wu Xie's vision is not wrong. In the future, when you have children, I will not interfere anymore, and you will be able to discipline them. In the future, when you have great-great-grandchildren, I will hand them over to you to teach, and in the future, if you have..." Cliffmaster, have you taken your medicine today?" After tidying up, the group left, sweeping away all traces of aura along the way until they arrived at an inconspicuous mountain range. Kidnapping a deity's descendant is a big deal. You have to be fully prepared. The Duanshan Cliffmaster said. Standing beside him was Gongsun Wuxia, who was fuming. Her body was sealed. She could see and hear, but she could not speak or move. At this moment, she stared angrily at her father, who did not allow her to speak or move. She stared angrily at Su Yu, who did not help her. Finally, she stared angrily at Qin Xiener, who was nestled beside Su Yu with a smile. That sweet and shy look made Gongsun Wuxia stamp her feet anxiously, and her lungs were about to explode. However, her father deliberately sealed her. The Duanshan Cliffmaster smiled bitterly. If he did not seal her, this lawless little devil would find out about Qin Xiener's existence, and she would make a scene. Moreover, if he did not seal her, he was afraid that she would not leave Su Yu. "I have a plan. Thank you for your help, Senior." Su Yu cupped his fists and bowed. The Duanshan Cliffmaster was not a Jiuzhou creature, and there was really no need for him to risk his life with Su Yu for the sake of God Kylan. Su Yu took the initiative to let the father and daughter leave. The Duanshan Cliffmaster looked ashamed. "I still have a lifetime regret, and I have to complete it. Otherwise, What's wrong with accompanying you to make a scene? Suyu said, Cliffmaster does not need to feel guilty. I have a perfect plan. There's no need to resort to force. Cliffmaster, do what you want to do. Suyu could not help but think of the deep hatred that flashed in his eyes that day on the Duanshin Cliffmaster. He just did not know if his hatred originated from the Great Eastern Alliance. I am ashamed. The Duanshin Cliffmaster sighed and stepped into the void with Gongsun Wuxia. He said, If there's a chance, I hope we can meet again. Certainly. After sending off the Central Prefecture's king, Suyu's expression suddenly became serious. He made it sound easy, but kidnapping a deity's descendant was a serious matter. What kind of situation would develop in the end was not something Suyu could control. What's your plan? Mo Tianxian asked. Things had developed to this point, and they had no way out. Suyu looked at Mo Tianxian. Suyu had also advised her to leave, but she insisted on rescuing God Kylan first. Yes, there is one thing here that I hope you can do. It is very dangerous, and I can't predict the results. Suyu took out a letter with a jade pendant attached. Mo Tianxian said, Dangerous? Tell me about it. I want you to bring the letter and the message jade pendant to. Suyu said telepathically. Hearing this, Mo Tianquan's face was full of surprise. Are you sure you want to hand it over to him? The risk is simply too great. Since we kidnapped the deity's descendant, the risk has been out of control. In that case, why not mess up the situation and find a chance of survival? Mo Tianxian pondered for a long time and slowly nodded. Okay, leave this matter to me. Creak. She immediately broke through the void and left. Oh, it's really a lot of surprises to travel with you. You just returned to the Great Eastern Alliance, and you already have to do such a big thing. As the third son of the Ghost God, the Ghost Prison's great emperor knew very well what it meant to kidnap a deity's descendant. That would be a major event that would shock the entire God realm. It was unprecedented, but the more it was like this, the more exciting it would be. Here is a task that needs to be handed over to you, and only you're suitable for it. Suyu said, taking out a 1,000-year-old heavenly orchid silver bamboo from the 9 jade spiritual pearl. Jiuzhou's #1 divine bamboo, even in the God realm, is a rare treasure, not to mention that it has been cultivated for 1,000 years, and its value is too high. My identity is ordinary, and if I rashly sell this bamboo, there will be endless trouble. Therefore, you need to sell this bamboo with the identity of a descendant of the Ghost God. After more than half a year, this heavenly orchid silver bamboo had also reached the maturity of 1,000 years. You need to raise money? The Ghost Prison's great emperor was surprised. Suyu was almost unable to stand on his feet. Why was he still thinking about making money? Yes, I need a lot of money. This heavenly orchid silver bamboo is just a test, and I will continue to sell rare and old spiritual objects of the world, Suyu said. The Ghost Prison's great emperor thought about it and did not hesitate much. Although revealing his identity as a descendant of the Ghost God would definitely be known by his father. So what? He might as well accompany Suyu and have a good time. Anyway, his father did not value him. With the identity of a descendant of the Ghost God, auctioning valuable objects would indeed save a lot of trouble. Suyu had considered this point very carefully. After handing over the communication jade pendant to the Ghost Prison's great emperor and sending him away, Suyu said to Jian Wuxing, I have a task for you. Jian Wuxing nodded. She had always respected the sacred Kylan, so there was no reason for her not to help. Suyu said quietly. Jian Wuxing's eyes lit up when she heard that, and her gentle face could not help but show a look of approval. You have advanced and retreated at the same time. You're very thoughtful. Leave this matter to me. Jian Wuxing turned around and was about to leave. After taking 2 steps, she stopped and looked back at Suyu deeply. I have a question and something to tell you. The question is, on the ruins of the Red Blood Palace, was it you who became a deity? Suyu thought for a moment and shook his head. No, it was not that he did not believe Jian Wuxing, but Suyu could not tell others about the fact that he had become a prospective deity. The more he knew, the more likely it was to be exposed. Once Suyu's whereabouts were exposed, it would be a catastrophe for the people around Suyu. Countless influences and even deities would take action to capture the people close to Suyu, torture them, and use all kinds of threats and promises to make them reveal Suyu's whereabouts. In this case, it was better to say nothing. Jian Wuxing's face showed a trace of disappointment. Then, she said, "What I want to tell you is that my daughter has also come to the Great Eastern Alliance. I can feel that she has come for you." Suyu did not speak, waiting for her to finish her words quietly. After hesitating for a long time, Jian Wuxing said with mixed feelings, "If you can, please don't hurt her." Was it Bing Wuxing or Bing Wuxing? Or both? "I understand," Suyu said. He had never hurt Bing Wuxing, because if he hurt her, he would hurt Bing Wuxing. Watching Jian Wuxing leave, Qin Xiener tilted her head curiously. "Brother Suyu, what do you want me to do? You didn't call me out to deliberately anger that little girl, did you?" Thinking of Gongsun Wuxie's face flushed with anger, but she could not move or speak, Qin Xiener could not help but burst into laughter. "A little girl? She's older than you." Suyu glanced at Qin Xiener's petite body, which was no better than Gongsun Wuxie's, and laughed secretly. He did not know where Xiener got the confidence to say that she was a little girl. "I called you out. You don't have to do anything. Just accompany me to tour the great mountains and rivers of the God Realm," Suyu said. Qin Xiener was stunned. At such a critical moment, Suyu took her out to play? After confirming that Suyu was not joking, although Qin Xiener was worried, she still felt sweet in her heart. Then, she took Suyu's arm with her right hand and started to play with a smile. Suyu was really playing. 2 months passed, and he had traveled half of the God Realm. He went to famous cities and scenic spots everywhere. In a quiet training room of the All-Access Chamber of Commerce, Yang Tai was quietly listening to the report of an old man at the peak of the Mortal Ferry. "What's the reaction of all parties?" Yang Tai asked casually as he flipped through a secret book of cultivation techniques. Chapter 1134. The law enforcers are searching for this man. The Sanluo law enforcers ranked 60 or below. 10 of them joined the investigation. Yang Tai asked, "What about the Crane deity's family?" "Nothing happened. They are waiting for the kidnappers." "What about the Crane deity himself?" "Nothing happened either." Yang Tai looked away from the book and said calmly, "Silence is the power of silence. The Crane deity's family is angry." "Well, what about that guy? Did you find out where he is hiding?" He's traveling." Yang Tai was surprised. "Are you sure?" "Yes. He is traveling around the God Realm with his wife. However, every time he appeared, he would leave soon. The law enforcers failed to find him because he has no purpose." Hearing Suyu was traveling around the God Realm in a high profile, Yang Tai said disappointedly, "He kidnapped a deity's descendant as soon as he came ashore. I thought there was something special about him. It turns out he is just a fool." The old man felt sorry for Suyu. According to the merchant ship that came back, Suyu met the young master on the way and was liked by the young master. The young master ordered him to take care of Suyu after he came ashore. However, before the All-Access Chamber of Commerce could take care of him, he did something earth-shattering, kidnapping a deity's descendant. The young master, who had almost forgotten this man, started to pay attention to him again. Apparently, the young master appreciated Suyu's resolute way of doing things. However, he didn't expect Suyu to be a reckless man. Stop collecting information about him. Yang Tai lost interest in Suyu. When the old man was about to leave, Yang Tai put down the book and said with a frown, "Show me the specific information first. I don't think he is such a reckless man." Before long, a thick pile of information appeared in front of him. Everything that had happened to Suyu in the past 2 months was recorded on it. It was so detailed that it made people's hair stand on end. Where he went, what he wore, what he ate, whom he talked to, how far he walked, how far he flew, and how many times he kissed Sienna were recorded in detail. The information seemed trivial, but Yang Tai was familiar with it. What was business? Information was business. The All-Access Trading Company's intelligence network covered every corner of God's domain, from large cities to small villages of mortals. This was the reason why the All-Access Trading Company was able to last for so long and control the wealth of God's domain. Yang Tai flipped through the information very quickly. Lines of trivial information were reflected in his eyes. An hour later, Yang Tai slowly closed his eyes, and he revealed a faint smile when he opened them once more. I really underestimated him. Young master, please give me some pointers. The old man was puzzled. Was he hiding something by being so reckless and ostentatious? Yang Tai pointed at the information and said with a smile, "Firstly, there's one less and one more by his side." Mo Tianxian had disappeared, but Qin Xiener, who had never appeared before, had appeared. From this, it can be inferred that he has a portable cavern world or has a certain foundation in the deity domain. Where did the missing woman in black go? This is a blind spot. Secondly, all the places he went to had a common characteristic. The old man thought about it, but couldn't figure out what the common characteristic was. That is, 8 of the 10 famous cities he went to had the ability to build divine bone ships. The other 2 cities were famous for selling information. Ha! It seemed that he was traveling, but in fact, he was preparing a way out for himself. The old man said in surprise, did he think he could buy a divine bone ship that could cross the Star River? Not to mention the cost, none of the cities would sell a divine bone ship because it was against the rules of the 100 deities. It was impossible for him to buy a divine bone ship. Yang Tai said with a faint smile, he is smarter than you. Of course, he couldn't buy a divine bone ship. However, he could buy the parts of the divine bone ship. He didn't have the blueprints and an equipment forging master who could build a divine bone ship. The old man couldn't continue because Su Yu had gone to 2 other places where information was sold. Those places were like gray areas. As long as the price was high enough, it was possible to find the blueprints and an equipment forging master. What about money? He is just an outsider. How could he get such a huge amount of money? Even I can't afford a divine bone ship, even if I save up for my whole life, let alone him. Yang Tai's fingers flicked on the documents briskly as he said, coincidentally, I recently read a brief on the capital flow of the major auction houses, and I was surprised to find that the 3rd son of the demon god has returned, and he is selling all kinds of extremely old heaven and earth spiritual treasures, ranging from 100 years old to 1,000 years old. There was also a heavenly orchid silver bamboo that was 1,000 years old, and just that heavenly orchid silver bamboo alone was sold for 10 million shinbi. The rest of the materials were sold for more than 30 million divine coins. That's more than 40 million divine coins. 40 million divine coins? The old man's hands trembled and his eyes turned red. The divine coin was the standard currency of the Great Eastern Alliance. 1 divine coin could be exchanged for 1 million crystals. For him, 40 million divine coins was a huge amount that he couldn't earn in his whole life. 40 million divine coins. How many divine bone ships can you buy with that amount? Yang Tai said with a faint smile. Even if he bought the blueprints from the black market and hired the equipment forging masters from the black market, he could still buy 10 small divine bone ships. But how can the young master be sure that the descendant of the ghost god is collecting money for him? There is no connection between the two, right? Yang Tai said with a smile. The 3rd son of the ghost god left the Great Eastern Alliance 100 years ago. 100 years later, he came to the Great Eastern Alliance with that brat. Yang Tai stood up with his hands behind his back, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. There are not so many coincidences in the world. After hearing that, the old man took a deep breath and said with admiration, this young man is really meticulous. He is still on the run, but he has already considered everything and even prepared the final route of retreat. How flawless! The old man was sincerely convinced by Su Yu's calculation. However, Yang Tai shook his head calmly. Flawless? Not necessarily. He is indeed smart. However, smart people often have a bad habit. They think too highly of themselves and look down on others. The old man said to himself, young master, aren't you looking down on him now? How many outstanding people have been produced in the divine realm for millions of years? Even today's deities have accumulated wisdom over the years. We can find out that he is secretly building the divine bone ship and preparing the route of retreat. How can we know that the crane deity can't find out? Therefore, he is still too young and thinks too highly of himself. The old man said, "Young master." Then Yang Tai paused and said, "Forget it. There are not many smart people in the world. If one dies, there will be one less. You can help him secretly. If you can't do it, remember to let go. Well, remember to keep me updated on the progress." In a maple forest, Suyu held Siener's hand and enjoyed the forest. Siener was very satisfied. After knowing him for so long, this was the first time that she had stayed with him for such a long time. She couldn't help but think of Xia Jingyu. "Brother Suyu, do you think Sister Jingyu is in the Great Eastern Alliance?" Suyu shook his head. "No. If she is here, we should have heard the news long ago." Qin Siener thought for a while and said, "Well, yes, Sister Jingyu is so beautiful. If she shows up, she will definitely amaze the entire continent. The title of the first beauty will be her, not the Sinluo law enforcing team's captain." Suyu patted her head with a smile. "My Siener is also the first beauty of the God Realm. Why are you so unknown?" Hearing Suyu's teasing, Qin Siener snorted and lightly hammered his arm. Her fair face was like a blossoming peach blossom. Suyu did secretly inquire about Xia Jingyu, but there was no news of her existence. Just as Siener said, she was so outstanding that she shouldn't be unknown. "If I find Sister Jingyu, I must take her to travel around the world like this." Qin Siener leaned on Suyu's shoulder and closed her eyes contentedly, enjoying the gentle breeze. Suyu said, "Oh, why?" Qin Siener closed her eyes and said weakly, "Because Siener has enjoyed it, but Sister Jingyu hasn't. It's not fair." Silly girl, Suyu loved her even more. People were selfish. How could there be a saint who was willing to share an exclusive possession? Sienna must be very sad. She was only doing this to maintain their relationship. After leaving the God Realm, the sky is high and the sea is wide. After finding Jingyu, the three of us will travel around the world. What do you think?" Qin Siener said with a sweet smile. Then, she fell asleep. Even a martial artist couldn't bear traveling for a long time. Suyu kissed her forehead gently and carried her into the world of the martial tower. When he came out again, the tenderness on his face was replaced by seriousness. "It's time to start the plan." Suyu's figure disappeared in the maple forest, leaving only a faint shadow. After waiting for a long time, the crane deity's family finally received a message from a jade pendant. 10 days later, they arrived at the designated place, the world of the brush deity. They met in a spacious restaurant at the trading place. However, when the time came, Suyu was still nowhere to be seen. "You brought 100 more people than the agreement. Ask the hidden guards nearby to leave." Zhang Yiming, the deputy captain of the law enforcement team established by the crane deity, was in charge of this exchange mission. Zhang Yiming looked around coldly after receiving the message from the jade pendant again. However, he didn't see Suyu. He was puzzled. How did Suyu know that he had planted 100 spies in the vicinity? However, his plan was seen through. So, he could only ask all of them to leave as instructed by the jade pendant. After a while, the jade pendant sent another message. "Go to the water world, the mermaid city." Zhang Yiming was annoyed. However, he had to go to the water world with his people. As soon as he left, a few more hidden experts also left the city. So he was looking at a wine cup nearest to the transportation portal. Whether the crane deity's family sent people here or left with their people, they had to go through the transportation portal. This place was the best transportation portal. One day later, another 4 or 5 hidden experts left for the water world. 2 days later, 3 experts left. 3 days later, 2 experts left. On the 5th day, no more experts left for the water world. Chapter 11:35. However, Suyu was just beside the transportation portal in front of them. It seemed like he didn't intend to go to the water world at all. At this time, Suyu picked up the jade pendant and sent another message. "Let's exchange at the original place." In the water world, in the mermaid city, Zhang Yiming clenched the jade pendant tightly and gnashed his teeth in anger. He had waited for half a month in vain. When all the spies were to set up, they changed to the original place. Zhang Yiming realized that he had been fooled by Suyu. Suyu had been in the world of brush deity all the time. When all the spies were sent away, Suyu summoned him again. In this way, it would be quite difficult for him to set up spies again. "How cunning you are!" Zhang Yiming really wanted to step on Suyu and go to the world of brush deity alone. Zhang Yiming found Su Yu, who was drinking alone in a spacious restaurant. Su Yu was waiting for him with a relaxed look on his face. "Oh, you are here? I have been choosing many places, but I still like the scenery here. It's really a shame for you to come here," Su Yu said with a smile. Zhang Yiming sat down and said directly, "I am here alone. All the spies have been removed. Where is she? Let's exchange her." Su Yu said with a faint smile, "Don't tell me you think I will take Yi Xianran with me. You are fooling us." Zhang Yiming stood up angrily. Su Yu said with a faint smile, "If you throw away the treasure given by the crane deity, I will exchange her with you." Zhang Yiming said seriously, "I don't know what you mean. We are here with sincerity." "Sincerity? If you are sincere, why don't you open your storage space and let me see whether you have any powerful treasures given by the ghost deity?" Zhang Yiming said nothing and sat down. His original plan was to seriously injure Su Yu with the treasure given by the crane deity once Yi Xianran was with him. Now it seems Su Yu had already seen through his plan and moved Yi Xianran to another place. In this way, Zhang Yiming couldn't kill Su Yu to ensure Yi Xianran's safety. "Tell me, how do you want exchange?" Zhang Yiming felt helpless in front of such a cunning opponent. Su Yu said, "It's quite simple. I want to exchange the treasure with you." "Exchange?" Zhang Yiming's eyes lit up. "Ha!" Su Yu placed the communication jade pendant on the table and activated it. Immediately, Yi Xianran's anxious cry for help came from it. "Are the people of the crane deity's family outside? Come and save me. I'm trapped in a dark." "Woo-woo." Her mouth was covered, followed by a lewd voice. "He's such soft skin and tender flesh, delicious." Zhang Yiming's face changed. "Stop. Don't you dare touch her." If Yi Xianran's reputation was ruined, even if she was saved, it would be a disgrace to the crane deity's family. He didn't know that the words of the evil god were literal. Yi Xianran's meat must be delicious. "What the hell do you want?" Zhang Yiming was going crazy. Su Yu said, "I'll hand the jade pendant over to you. Then my people will leave slowly. Yi Xianran will tell you where she is through the jade pendant, and you can go look for her on your own. This is the exchange of goods." Zhang Yiming refused flatly. "What if you kill them after we hand them over?" Su Yu spread out his palms. "Why should we kill the hostages? In other words, do we have any reason to kill them?" Zhang Yiming was lost in thought. Indeed, they kidnapped Yi Xianran to save the sacred Cauldron. Killing Yi Xianran was not beneficial at all. It would only infuriate the crane deity's family more. Zhang Yiming nodded his head and agreed to save Yi Xianran first. He snorted in his heart. "No matter whether you kill Yi Xianran or not, you have seriously challenged the dignity of the crane deity's family. From ordinary people to the crane deity, they couldn't let it go. The divine realm would never have a peaceful day if they didn't use their blood to frighten people. This was not only the will of the crane deity, but also the will of the 100 deities of the Great Eastern Alliance. Killing Su Yu to warn the world was the trend of the Great Eastern Alliance, an irresistible trend. Su Yu must die." Zhang Yiming released the god Cauldron from the storage bag on his waist. The god Cauldron ran to Zhang Yiming and cried, "Boy Su, I'm so touched. I heard that you kidnapped a descendant of a deity to save me. I was so touched that I cried. I love you so much. Hey, don't hide. Let me give you a kiss. Ouch, be gentle, be gentle." Su Yu's face darkened. Then he pressed the sacred Cauldron on the table with one finger and said calmly, "You should take it back. We don't want this sacred Cauldron anymore." Zhang Yiming was speechless. Then Su Yu left the restaurant with the sacred Cauldron. After making sure nobody was following them, he left quickly. Zhang Yiming asked hurriedly with the jade pendant in his hand, "Third miss, where are you?" Yi Xianran said sadly, "I don't know. It's completely dark here." Swish, swish, swish. The experts of the crane deity's family, who were informed by Zhang Yiming, walked over. "Deputy Captain Zhang, let's go and kill that bastard." Zhang Yiming waved his hand to stop them. "No, I don't know whether his helper is still with Mississippi. If Su Yu is irritated, he might kill Mississippi. That will be a great loss. Then what should we do? Let's find Miss according to the clues provided by Miss first." As for that bastard, Humph, does he think he can escape? What happened in this place was noticed by all the influential people. Then, the news was sent back to the All-Access Chamber of Commerce. In the All-Access Chamber of Commerce, Yang Tai was listening to the old man's detailed report on Su Yu's every move. Yang Tai said approvingly, interesting. Most of the other influential people were on the crane deity's side. They all hated the crane deity after hearing the whole story. This bastard is really cunning. I hope the crane deity can control his temper. After all, his body is getting weaker and weaker year by year. This news has been spread out in the market. Everyone is talking about it. A foreign bastard made fun of the crane deity's family. Humph. We should suppress his arrogance immediately. If the people in the Great Eastern Alliance learn from him, the deity's descendant will be in danger. The conflict between the deity's family and the ordinary martial artist could be seen clearly from these words. One was nervous, while the other was enjoying the story. As a martial artist who was born in a poor family, his future as a deity was almost cut off by the deity's world. Most of the good resources were in the hands of the deity's family. Once, a martial artist who was born in a poor family was attacked by the deity's family when he was in the process of becoming a deity. They killed him on the pretext that he had done evil in the past. The poor people didn't like the deity's family at all. However, the deity's family was in the ruling position. They couldn't do anything about it. Now, they heard Su Yu, a poor martial artist from an abandoned cavern world, was making fun of the crane deity's family. They even cheered for Su Yu secretly. Su Yu was teleported to the edge of the brush deity's world, which was the largest port of the Great Eastern Alliance. 80% of the Divine Bone ships were entering and leaving here. When he arrived at a small Divine Bone ship, a disguised old man said while rubbing his hands, "The ship is ready. Now, is it time to..." The disguised old man was an equipment forging master hired by Su Yu from the black market. The Divine Bone ship was made by him. Su Yu threw out a white card, which was similar to the bank card in his previous life. It could be used to withdraw a certain amount of shunbi from the fixed financial market of the Great Eastern Alliance. The disguised old man took the card and checked it. Well, he was sure the amount in it was not bad. He said with a smile, "Good luck." Then, he ran away quickly. Su Yu jumped onto the ship. It was quite easy to operate this ship. As long as it left the continent, it would absorb the strength of the Star River and run continuously. When he was on the ship, he only needed to control the direction. When the Divine Bone ship entered the Star River and left the continent, Su Yu successfully escaped. After spending so much effort secretly, he finally saved the sacred Kylin. However, at this moment, for small ships of the same size came from the Star River and blocked Su Yu's way as if they had been waiting for him for a long time. At the same time, for small ships flew out from the continent and blocked Su Yu's way too. All of a sudden, 8 small boats surrounded Su Yu, and not even a drop of water could escape. On each of the small ships, there were no less than 10 experts of the crane deity's family. When Su Yu saw them, he couldn't help but gasp. The weakest one among them was a stage 2 mortal fairy. There were as many as 10 experts of the stage 4 mortal fairy. Among them, 2 young men who carried the bloodline of the crane deity were staring at Su Yu coldly. Undoubtedly, those 2 young men were the other 2 direct descendants of the crane deity. The man with a hawk nose and a green robe was He Jing Hong, the eldest brother of the crane deity. He was ruthless but talented. The bloodline of the crane deity was very pure, which was only inferior to He Xianran. On the other ship, there was a very simple and honest young man, who was slightly plump and had a slight sense of inferiority. He was the crane deity's second son, He Rushu. His innate talent was far inferior to that of his eldest brother, and was inferior to that of his younger sister, He Xianran. He had not been valued by the crane deity for a long time, and had no status in the crane deity's clan. Both of them had been ordered by their families to ambush here in advance. "Humph! Kneel down and surrender," He Jing Hong shouted coldly. Under the gaze of dozens of powerful mortal fairies, Su Yu knelt down on the ground and cried for mercy. The family of the crane deity? Please spare my life. What did I do wrong?" What? Hearing the cries of his father and mother, the sneering faces of the crowd changed. Hirushu flew over and examined Suyu, who was kneeling on the ground. Suddenly, he found there was a layer of something made of special material on Suyu's face. When he was about to speak, He Jinghong walked over and pushed him aside. Hirushu, who was clumsy, almost fell into the Star River. Hirushu hurriedly steadied himself, which looked very funny. However, no one noticed a hint of ferociousness flashed in the depth of his eyes. When he raised his head, the ferociousness was replaced by panic and anxiety. He Jinghong snorted and glanced at his useless younger brother. Then, he tore off the material on Suyu's face. It was a high-level mask that could resist the detection of mortal fairies. After tearing off the mask, a strange and frightened face was revealed. Chapter 1136. Who are you? Why are you on this ship? He Jinghong asked angrily. The man knelt on the ground, shivering, and said, 2 months ago, a handsome young man with a head full of silver hair entrusted me with a mission to make a fortune, and as long as I completed it, he would give me 100 shinbi, and he even gave me an advance of 10 shinbi. He asked me to go to the Milky Way to pick up someone with this mask. I set off after I received his signal just now. Lords of the Crane Deity's family, I really don't know how I have offended you. He Jinghong's mask creaked as he tugged on it, his face full of anger and humiliation. The rest of the people of the Crane Deity's family also looked gloomy. They were all fooled. Suyu had been planning this for 2 months. If this man was not Suyu, then where was the real Suyu? On the shore, the disguised old man looked at Suyu, who was surrounded by many people. He didn't know the details of the situation. He just thought Suyu was captured. Playing with the other person's hand, he said with a smile, "Why did I use only one hand to collect money? Young man, don't blame me. Money is a good thing, and I don't want too much of it." However, just as he finished speaking, an indifferent voice drilled into his ears. Sometimes, extending an extra hand can be fatal. The disguised old man only had time to see a handsome, silver-haired face with a cold smile. Then, his vision went black, and his soul was destroyed. Suyu picked up the 2 purses on the ground and weighed them in his hand. Then, he looked at the confrontation in the Star River and smiled. Then, he walked in another direction. In that direction, a small divine bone ship was drifting quietly. A mysterious man in a black cloak was sitting on the ship. When Suyu boarded the ship, the man in the black cloak removed the veil and revealed a beautiful woman. As expected, that black market equipment, Forging Grandmaster, is unreliable. Fortunately, you had 2 backup plans. On the surface, you built the ship to lure the enemies away. Then, you secretly asked me to prepare another ship. The absolutely beautiful woman in front of him was none other than Jian Wuxing. The ship prepared by her was Suyu's rail backup plan. As for the boat that he had secretly prepared for a sightseeing trip, Suyu didn't think that a deity's family didn't have smart people who couldn't see through his purpose of sightseeing. Therefore, the ship prepared by him was a decoy. What he asked Jian Wuxing to do was to prepare a divine bone boat. When everyone's attention was focused on him, who would pay attention to Jian Wuxing, who had never appeared before? "Let's set sail. They will soon react," Suyu said. The small divine bone ship sailed into the dark universe, soundlessly like a small boat. In the secret room of the All-Access Chamber of Commerce, Yang Tai listened to the old man's report on the current situation. Young Master, as Young Master had expected, he was surrounded by the 8 divine bone ships that the Crane Deity's clan had set up not long after he left with the divine bone ship. It seems like the Crane Deity's clan has long been aware that he was secretly preparing the divine bone ship and bribed the equipment refiner from the black market. A faint confident smile hung on Yang Tai's face as he commented, "Sai, smart people always have this kind of problem. They look down on others and overestimate themselves. You can come back now. You don't have to worry about it anymore." Wait. Suddenly, the old man on the other side transmitted his voice. "Young Master, something doesn't seem right. The one they brought back isn't that kid." "Wait," the old man said in surprise. "They found the dead body of the equipment refiner from the black market. He didn't lose anything except 2 bags of divine coins." "Young Master, please tell me." "Young Master, Young master, are you there? The faint smile on Yang Tai's face was still on his face. However, his smile was frozen and his confidence was gone. After a while, Yang Tai took a deep breath and said, Him, right him. I will go there in person. Somehow, Yang Tai was in a bad mood. He liked smart people, but he didn't like people who were as smart as him, because he felt he couldn't control this person if he did that. When he arrived at the port, the people of the Crane Deities clan were still arguing on the shore. They were discussing where to find Suyu. Staring at the dead body of the equipment refiner on the ground, Yang Tai said after a while, Okay, let me test you. Tell them that Suyu entered the Star River. The direction is southwest. According to Yang Tai's speculations, Suyu was throwing out bait, and he wasn't trying to create a diversion. Since the fish had taken the bait, Suyu must have left. As for the direction, he must go to the southwest to avoid the attention of the people of the Crane Deities clan. The old man asked a porter of the All-Access Chamber of Commerce to inform them that a silver-haired young man had killed the equipment refiner from the black market and escaped to the southwest. The people of the Crane Deities clan were in a heated discussion about this matter. After thinking about it carefully, they found it was quite possible. Half of them stayed here to search for Suyu, while the other half went to the southwest. The old man asked in confusion, Young master, why did you do that? Why did the young master, who was interested in Suyu, help the people of the Crane Deities clan to deal with Suyu? Without the young master's advice, the people of the Crane Deities clan would have to spend a lot of time to figure out the key point. Yang Tai said calmly, Nothing. I just wanted to test him. The old man beside him vaguely sensed the young master was competing with Suyu secretly. Suyu's divine bone ship was drifting in the endless Star River. They couldn't see the specific shape of the continent behind them. They could only see a piece of bright light. It seems we are out of trouble, Jian Wuxing said with relief. Suyu shook his head. We can't be careless until the last moment, Jian Wuxing said as she looked behind her. Then, her expression changed slightly. I'm afraid you are right. They saw 4 divine bone ships were chasing after them rapidly. They could vaguely see many figures with the mark of the Crane deity standing at the prow of the ships. Suyu sighed softly. The deities clan is full of smart people. I'm surprised they could catch up with us so quickly. However, Suyu didn't look flustered, and he said calmly, Let's speed up as well. Our destination is north. Hirushu, who was staying on the shore, received a message from his elder brother, He Jinghong. Follow us. We found them. They are heading to the southwest. Hearing that, Hirushu led the people on the shore to chase after them like a chicken pecking rice. A confident and indifferent smile appeared on Yang Tai's face again, as if everything was under his control. Wait, he changed his direction. He is heading to the north. You should intercept him in the north. He Jinghong shouted excitedly. Yang Tai's smile faded away as he was lost in thought. Why did he change his direction suddenly? If he changed his direction rashly, it would be disadvantageous for him to escape. North was a straight direction for Hirushu, and he could block his way easily. Find a ship. Let's follow them, Yang Tai said resolutely. The old man sighed. However, he couldn't disobey his young master's order. Soon, he found a top-grade divine bone ship and left for the north. In the Star River, 4 divine bone ships were chasing after a divine bone ship crazily. He Jinghong laughed, like a hunter who had hunted for a long time and was about to catch his prey. Where can you escape to? Escape? Suyu said with a faint smile. Half a day later, when the 4 divine bone ships were about to surround them, the other 4 divine bone ships of the Crane Deities clan approached them from the south. Now, Suyu had no way to escape. He Jinghong said with a hideous smile. It would be a great achievement if he could catch this man. However, he was quite regretful. If only he could kill his younger sister, He Xianran. Without his younger sister, this great achievement would be more precious. Hirushu was still clumsy. Then, he stopped Suyu with his clansmen as he shouted like a pig being slaughtered. Suyu was about to be surrounded by 2 divine bone ships. Yang Tai, who was watching this scene from afar, said with a victorious smile. All of a sudden, a deafening explosion could be heard. Then, a divine bone ship around He Jinghong was blown up by a tremendous force. Then, all the experts of the Crane deity's clan fell into the Star River. The wild beasts hiding in the Star River dashed over immediately. Instantly, 3 experts of the Crane deity's clan were devoured by them. The rest of the divine bone ships climbed onto the smaller divine bone ships with lingering fear. However, another divine bone ship was blown up by the explosion before they could stand still. This time, they didn't suffer too many casualties because they reacted in time. Their hearts were filled with panic like weeds. They didn't feel the pleasure of catching up with Suyu anymore. He Jinghong stared at a place in the distance. He saw a giant creature was hiding in the star cloud. When the star cloud was broken, the giant creature appeared in front of them. Then, they couldn't help but gasp in fear. It was a brand new, pitch-black battleship. It was a battleship. On both sides of the battleship, there were 100 pitch-black entrances. Smoke and dust could be seen in one of the entrances. He Jinghong's pupils were as small as needles. His feet were shivering in fear. This kind of battleship was an invincible giant creature in the Star River. Anyone who came here could only be cannon fodder unless they were deities. In this Star River, which couldn't accommodate human bodies, a battleship was the only way. The power of the battleship was the deciding factor. The Crane deity's clan had battleships, of course. However, they didn't expect to chase an outsider with battleships. In front of such a giant creature, even 80 unarmed divine bone ships would be annihilated, let alone 8 small divine bone ships. In the distance, Yang Tai clenched his fist with a gloomy face. What Suyu had prepared was not 1 boat, nor 2 boats, but 3. Moreover, the 3rd ship was also a battleship that Yang Tai didn't expect. He remembered Suyu had obtained a huge amount of divine coins to build 10 small divine bone ships. Now it seemed like the first 2 ships were just a ruse. The last battleship was Suyu's real target. He didn't run away. He lured the Crane deity's clan here to kill all of them. It was ridiculous that he guided the Crane deity's clan to step into Suyu's trap. He didn't like the feeling of being outsmarted by Suyu. Chapter 1137. Jian Wuxing jumped onto the battleship. She didn't know how to describe her feelings. When she thought she had prepared a backup plan, Suyu had prepared a backup plan for her. This battleship was enough for them to leave this place safely. Who would dare to chase after them? Even if the Crane deity's family sent a battleship to chase after them, Suyu would still enter the depths of the Star River. The Ghost Clan's great emperor glanced at the ashen-faced Crane deity's family members and said delightedly, "I can do whatever I want. It was the right decision to follow you." The Ghost Clan's great emperor was responsible for buying the 3rd battleship. The outcome was determined. However, a cold snort echoed in the Star River at this moment. Wherever the sound reached, the wild beasts wandering around the small divine bone ship fled away in fear. After a while, the Star River fell into silence. The people above the Milky Way all felt an extremely heavy pressure, as if something powerful was approaching, making it difficult for them to breathe. Yang Tai said with a sigh, "I knew the Crane deity would come here in person. Right, it's time to end this issue." Looking at Suyu on the battleship, Yang Tai said pitifully, "What a pity. He's as smart as me. If the All-Access Chamber of Commerce could use him, the All-Access Chamber of Commerce would benefit a lot. It's a pity that his weak foundation is his fatal weakness. Without the support of a deity, he won't be able to do anything no matter how smart he is." When a deity arrived, all his advantages would be turned around. It couldn't be helped. Gods represented absolute power. However, even though a deity arrived, he didn't show his real body. He snorted coldly. "The Crane deity's family was played by you. Do you think it's interesting?" The Crane deity's family members were embarrassed. If the Crane deity didn't help them, so you would have killed all of them. "Hand over Shinron's soul," the Crane deity said indifferently. "What? He still has Xianran? Didn't they exchange their souls?" At the thought of this, the Crane deity's family members were extremely angry. They were played by Suyu from head to toe. Suyu stood at the bow of the ship, but he didn't seem afraid at all. He calmly asked, "What if I don't hand it over?" The entire area was in silence. Even Yang Tai didn't expect Suyu would dare to talk to a deity like this before his death. "Wait, Could be that Su Yu still had a backup plan. However, he only thought about it for a moment before dropping the idea. How could an outsider fight against a god? Unless Su Yu also had a deity behind him. Even Yang Tai, who was from the god realm, couldn't find a deity to rely on in such a short time, let alone an outsider like Su Yu. Who gave you the guts? The crane deity asked indifferently. Everyone could feel the murderous intent pervading the galaxy. Whether Su Yu handed over his Xianran or not, he had to die today. When a god made his move, there was no suspense. However, a shocking voice drifted into everyone's ears. I gave it to you. Is there a problem? A low and magnetic voice floated out from the warship. At the same time, a divine pressure that was slightly stronger than the crane deities suddenly descended like a raging storm. Shwa, a beam of white light filled with divine power, descended from the sky, accompanied by countless white feathers. It was exceptionally dreamy. The figure in the white light was blurry and could not be seen at all. A mystical dragon can see its head, but not its tail. A deity can see an elephant, but not its shape. A deity would never reveal his true self easily. Crane deity. The crane deity's family was excited. Even they rarely saw the crane deity in person, so they cheered immediately. However, the crane deity was standing on the warship and looking at a figure who was bathed in ripples walking out of the cabin. The crane deity heaved a sigh of relief and said in a deep voice, "Jing deity." What? The Jing deity? Everyone was shocked. Yang Tai claimed to be extremely smart, but he didn't understand why it was the Jing deity. Any deity in the god realm could support Su Yu in a hot-headed manner, except the Jing deity, because the Jing deity's successor, Jingbai, was killed by Su Yu. This was something that everyone knew. Why would the Jing deity support the murderer who killed his son? Moreover, it seemed the Jing deity had been invited to the warship a long time ago. It was not until the crane deity showed up that the Jing deity supported Su Yu. All kinds of unimaginable things made people exclaim in admiration. How could he persuade the Jing deity to help the enemy who killed his son to fight against his deity friend? How'd he do it? How'd he do it? Yang Tai clenched his fists. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. However, he still couldn't figure out the reason. The crane deity asked him the reason. Why do you want to help him? The Jing deity said coldly, because my son Jingbai was not killed by him. At this time, Mo Tianxian walked out of the cabin and stood behind Su Yu quietly. Su Yu's task was to find the Jing deity with the letter and the messenger pendant. Su Yu's jade pendant contained 2 sentences. First, I am not the murderer of Jingbai. Second, I can help you find the murderer. As a person who had lived for countless years, he should believe Su Yu's sincerity even if he didn't believe it. If Su Yu is a murderer, why did he send someone here? Then, the letter explained everything in detail, especially the name of one person. When he left, he only saw He Xianran. He didn't know Jingbai at all. How could he kill him? The Jing deity knew something was wrong. Either Su Yu was lying, or He Xianran was lying. Moreover, Jingbai's body was nowhere to be found, which made the Jing deity even more suspicious. However, he didn't believe Su Yu's words because of that. Until he investigated secretly, almost all the law enforcers and attendants who went to Jiuzhou with Jingbai and He Xianran for the mission died abnormally or went missing. Only one person named Meng didn't witness Jingbai's death. The missing person was Tsang Qie, the leader of the law enforcement team under the jurisdiction of the book deity. He tried to find Tsang Qie, but he found nothing. At this point, he finally believed that Su Yu's words were most likely true. Jingbai's death must be a secret. The only person who knew the truth was He Xianran, the liar. Why did she lie? What was she hiding in Jingbai's death? That was the reason why he appeared on the battleship, to confront the crane deity. The crane deity said, if he didn't kill Jingbai, that's fine. Why did you stop me from killing him? This man kidnapped my daughter and offended the deities. He should be killed. The Jing deity said coldly, I didn't kill him because of your daughter, because it was a lie told by your daughter. Now, I'm going to confront you in public. Why did your daughter blame Jingbai's death on him? After saying that, The Jing deity looked at Su Yu and waved his hand. In an instant, Su Yu's soul space was like air without any defense. The Jing deity took out He Xianran's soul directly. He Xianran was still confused. When she found the two deities, especially the Jing deity, were also present, she couldn't help but feel her heart skip a beat. A trace of panic flashed across her face. How could this trace of panic fool the Jing deity? He couldn't help but look cold. How did my son Jingbai die? Repeat it, the Jing deity said coldly. Don't try to lie, and don't force me to search your soul. He Xianran trembled with despair in her eyes. She didn't understand how things had developed to the point where the two deities were confronting each other. The crane deity's face turned cold. Jing deity, if you still regard me as your friend, don't force me. His daughter's soul was searched in public. How could he save his face in the god realm? It's because I regard you as my friend that I confront you in public. Otherwise, wouldn't it be easier to attack your daughter secretly and search her soul directly? The Jing deity's words were true. He didn't want to ruin their friendship of many years. So, he confronted the Jing deity in front of the crane deity to show that he didn't use private punishment. Unfortunately, the crane deity's love for He Xianran was far more than the Jing deity's indifferent feelings for his son. Even though he knew the Jing deity's good intentions, he was determined to stop him. Because he knew the truth, Julong dared to hide it from anyone in the family. How could he hide it from him? He had already secretly reported it to him. He knew about it. Once He Xianran's soul was searched and the Jing deity learned the truth, He Xianran could only apologize with death. And this was absolutely not what he wanted to see. Our friendship of so many years is not as good as a mortal who tried to sow discord, the crane deity said. The Jing deity was extremely disappointed. The crane deity's attitude only made him more certain. He vaguely guessed that the crane deity might also know the truth about Jingbai's death. This infuriated the Jing deity. An old friend of many years treated him like this. How could he not be disappointed? Anger rose in the Jing deity's heart. He said coldly, "It seems there must be some secret behind my son's death. If so, don't blame me for searching your soul." The crane deity shouted, "How dare you?" The Jing deity sneered. "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" The two deities released their divine energy gradually. All of a sudden, the whole Star River was turned upside down. All the ships on the Star River, including the battleships, were on the verge of collapse. So he was shocked. Was this the collision of deities? A wisp of their aura was so powerful. If they really fought, a cavern world might be smashed into pieces. Seeing the two deities were about to fight, Su Yu said, "Jing deity, please calm down." The Jing deity glanced at him. After all, Su Yu had told him some of the truth. He didn't ignore it. He said, "What do you want to say?" Jing deity, in the Great Eastern Alliance, only when 100 deities are united can there be a supreme sage of our Great Eastern Alliance. Now that two great deities are fighting, not only is it useless, but it has also caused the 100 Territories Alliance to be torn apart. It has also become a joke to the forces outside the galaxy. The crowd rolled their eyes and stared at Su Yu angrily. "How dare you say such words? Weren't you the one who started the fight between the two deities? After stirring up trouble, you were trying to mediate? How could the Jing deity not know? So what if he defeated the crane deity? It was meaningless. All he wanted was to seek justice for his son, not to fight with the crane deity. However, with the crane deity in the way, it was impossible for him to seek justice for his son." Chapter 1138. However, Su Yu said, "Jing deity, you are wrong. There is no evidence to prove that Jingbai was killed by He Xianran." What? Everyone was dumbfounded again. Didn't he instigate the Jing deity? Why did he speak up for the crane deity's family? When the Jing deity was about to lose his temper, Su Yu continued, "In my opinion, the conflict between the two deities is only because of the lack of evidence. If Jing deity can find evidence to prove that Jingbai was killed by He Xianran, can you give the Jing deity a fair explanation?" The crane deity stared at Su Yu angrily. "Isn't it all because of you?" However, Su Yu's words gave him a way out. He didn't want to fight with the Jing deity because he was no match for him. After pondering for a while, the crane deity said, "Of course, if there is evidence to prove that my daughter did it, I will kill her for justice." His words sounded dignified. If there was really evidence, it would not be his turn to take action. There would be other deities who would destroy crane deity. According to the rules of the 100 deities, those who killed the descendants of deities without permission would be killed without mercy, regardless of their identities. If the evidence was found, Xianran would be killed, and the crane deity couldn't save her. Therefore, he said it confidently. Anyway, all the witnesses have been destroyed. Where was the evidence? Suyu nodded his head and said to the Jing deity, "Jing deity, what do you think?" The Jing deity was in a dilemma. He snorted coldly. "Fine, crane deity, remember what you said. If you still dare to cover up for her after you find evidence, don't blame me for being ruthless." Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. The imminent war between deities had finally been resolved. If the deities really started a war, no one knew what would happen to the continent of the God Realm Alliance. However, none of them could survive. For the sake of the alliance, the two deities put aside their personal grudges and disregarded past misunderstandings. "I admire you for your righteousness. On behalf of the people of the God Realm, I express my heartfelt gratitude to the two deities," Suyu said in a sonorous and powerful voice. Although the crane deity and the Jing deity didn't lack the compliments of mortals, even the deities would be happy to hear their embarrassing act of borrowing a donkey's power. Then, Suyu changed his tone. "Next, between the two gods, we need an impartial investigator to fully investigate this case. I am not talented, but I am willing to investigate this case on behalf of the two deities." Suyu's sudden turn of events shocked everyone. "What? Investigating on behalf of two gods? Why did I choose you? What was the use of the Sunluo law enforcement team? Even without them, there were plenty of gods in the divine territory. Why couldn't they invite a fair god to investigate the case on their behalf? Who do you think you are?" The members of the crane deity's family were infuriated after hearing that. The crane deity and the Jing deity glanced at him indifferently. Clearly, they didn't think much of it either. At this point, Suyu was no longer of any use to the Jing deity. The Jing deity could send someone he trusted to investigate, and Suyu had nothing to do with it anymore. Moreover, the Jing deity wouldn't interfere much with how the crane deity was going to deal with Suyu. However, Suyu said again, "Two deities, please consider it carefully. Only you and I know what happened here. Apart from us, no one else knows about it. If you ask an outsider to investigate this case and find out Miss Xianran is the culprit, wouldn't it ruin the reputation of the crane deity? Similarly, the Jing deity's son was killed by the daughter of his old friend. If this incident is spread out, it will be detrimental to the Jing deity's reputation. Therefore, it is not appropriate for an outsider to investigate this case." What? The crane deity and the Jing deity were stunned. Many unfavorable factors occurred to them instantly. It was more than just the impact on their reputation. If this incident was spread out, they would be laughed at by other deities, even if they wanted to continue their friendship due to the public opinion and pressure of the outside world. Indeed, this incident couldn't be spread out. They were the only people who knew about it. In the future, the crane deity would deal with Xianran secretly to give the Jing deity an explanation. In this way, they could maintain their relationship on the surface. If this incident was made public, they would have to break off their relationship even if they didn't want to, just like today when they had a fight with each other on the spot. Therefore, they reconsidered Suyu's words. Glancing around, they found there were 4 forces. If they asked the crane deity's family to investigate, wouldn't it be like catching a thief? The Jing deity wouldn't agree. As outsiders, the young master and servants of the All-Access Chamber of Commerce couldn't be allowed to participate in the investigation. Otherwise, the incident would spread out faster. The Jing deity was alone. If he investigated in person, it would cause a great commotion. It would be difficult for it not to be spread out. In the end, there was only Suyu's faction. He was an outsider who didn't belong to either faction. Besides, this incident was closely related to him. Among all the people present, He was the only one who was suitable. The Jing deity changed his mind. It would be beneficial for him to find the evidence. If he couldn't find it, there would be no harm. It would be more suitable for Su Yu to handle the case than the rest of the people present. After pondering for a while, he nodded his head in agreement. Fine. I grant you the privilege to handle the case. I hereby handle this case. The crane deity didn't want Su Yu to handle the case. This guy was smart. He was really worried that Su Yu would find some clues. However, there was no one more suitable than him. Even though he was reluctant, the crane deity had to admit it. I agree too. I grant you the privilege to handle the case. I hereby handle this case. As soon as the two deities spoke, Su Yu turned from a kidnapper chased by the crane deity to an imperial envoy of the two deities. Deities, I don't have a strong foundation in the god realm. I have no manpower, no wealth, and no influence. I'm afraid I will encounter some obstacles in handling this case, Su Yu said. Is he asking for benefits? Is there anyone more shameless than you? You are a kidnapper, a shocking kidnapper who shocked the entire god realm. Do you have any self-awareness as a kidnapper? The people of the crane deity's family stared at Su Yu with their teeth clenched. The Jing deity was not worried. Instead, he was delighted. He gave Su Yu a token that was flowing with divine energy. This is my personal token. Seeing this token is like seeing a god. The Jing deity's cavern world, including the law enforcers, all the manpower, financial resources, material resources, and influences are all under your command. As long as you find the real murderer as soon as possible. It was precisely because Su Yu only uses people that the Jing deity could see what Su Yu did at a glance and not be deceived. Su Yu took the token and said sincerely, "As you wish." Then, he turned around and looked at the crane deity. The crane deity was disgusted. You came here to investigate my daughter, and you still want me to give you benefits? Although he was disgusted, he had to swallow it. Then, he said with a faint smile, "This is my personal token. Seeing this token is like seeing a god, and its effect is the same as the Jing deities. You can use everything in the crane deity's cavern world. Nobody can stop you. Crane deity, you are so righteous. I admire you." So you took the token. The crane deity's muscles twitched. Then he exchanged a look with the Jing deity and left in the starry sky. All of a sudden, the Star River fell silent. Only the sound of Su Yu playing with the two tokens echoed in the vast Milky Way. The crane deity left. The people of the crane deity's family also left. What? You said the kidnapper is still there? Wulsh *T. He is the imperial envoy appointed by the two deities. What? You said Xianran is still in his hands? Nonsense. She is a suspect, and she is cooperating with the imperial envoy to prove her innocence. The people of the crane deity's family left in the small divine bone ship with anger in their stomachs. They were still in a daze. There were too many twists and turns today, which made them dizzy. They couldn't figure out how Su Yu had turned from an earth-shattering kidnapper who kidnapped the descendants of the deities into an imperial envoy of the deities. Oh, one of the deities appointed by the two deities was the crane deity himself. The small divine bone ship was also heading back to the continent. Yang Tai's face turned pale. After a while, he said with a weird smile, "What a good plan. What a flawless plan." When he thought Su Yu was brave, but not astute, Su Yu played with the deity's family. When he thought Su Yu was just playing with them, Su Yu provoked a war between the two deities. When he thought Su Yu was driving the tiger to swallow the wolf, Su Yu showed his claws and fangs and killed the two deities. Then, Su Yu forced the Jing deity to give him an important task. The crane deity didn't only give up the crime of kidnapping, but was also forced to give him an important task. From the very beginning, he didn't want to escape. From the very beginning, he didn't plan to kill the small fishes and shrimps of the crane deity's family, but the two deities. The words and the plots he had prepared were not improvised. They had been planned for a long time. Su Yu became the imperial envoy of the two deities from a kidnapper who was hated by all deities in the god realm. Now, he had the supreme divine order in his hand, which was above all living beings. Yang Tai took a deep breath. His heart was trembling a bit. Apart from the interconnected plots, Su Yu's bold and unconstrained plan which even dared to plot against the deities, was beyond Yang Tai's imagination. Yang Tai, who considered himself to be extremely smart, couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. "We'd better not make this man our enemy," Yang Tai said with a heavy heart after a long silence. On the battleship, Mo Tianxian, Jian Wuxing, and the Ghost Clan's great emperor were all stunned. They did follow Su Yu's order step by step. However, they didn't expect things would develop to this stage. Being able to successfully escape was already their greatest hope. As a result, Su Yu not only got rid of the crime of kidnapping, but also gained a foothold in the Great Eastern Alliance. No, it was more than a foothold. It was like the sun at high noon. In the Crane deity's cavern world and the Jing deity's cavern world, once the token appeared, all living beings would worship it as if it was a deity. Even in other god realms, the imperial envoy who had something in common with the two deities had a high status. Except for the deities and the descendants of the deities, nobody dared to offend him. In an instant, Su Yu turned from an insignificant outsider into an influential figure in the God Realm Alliance. Looking at Su Yu, everyone felt their blood was boiling. The ups and downs were so exciting. Mo Tianquan's eyes were full of appreciation. She didn't quarrel with Su Yu. "Congratulations. You have a place in the Great Eastern Alliance. The people of Jiuzhou will definitely cheer for you." Su Yu said, "Thank you." Chapter 1139. Su Yu nodded and said sincerely, "Thank you, Palace Master, for taking care of me all this time." Mo Tianquan's face turned slightly red. In fact, she had always suspected that Su Yu was an otherworldly person with an unknown origin who coveted the Jiuzhou cavern world. Therefore, she was always on guard against him. Speaking of helping Su Yu, she felt ashamed. "Haha, Brother Su, I'll follow you. It's so interesting and exciting." The Ghost Prison's great emperor didn't have enough. Although he was used to seeing deities, now he experienced this with Su Yu from the perspective of an ordinary person. It was really exciting and exciting. Su Yu said, "Haha, the exciting part is yet to come." Looking at the sacred Kylon on his shoulder, Su Yu said, "I still have a more important Han Yuan that has not been completed. That will be more exciting." The Ghost Prison's great emperor's eyes lit up. Although Su Yu didn't reveal it, judging from Su Yu's courage, it must be an earth-shattering event. "Let's go, I'm going to go ashore." The Great Eastern Alliance was in an uproar in the past 2 months because of shocking news that overturned their senses. Do you know? The great kidnapper who kidnapped the descendants of deities is no longer a kidnapper. Oh, what news? Did he get caught and become a prisoner on death row from a kidnapper? No, he turned over a new leaf. Hiss, kidnapping the descendants of deities is a capital crime. How could he turn over a new leaf? Are you kidding me? If so, the descendants of deities will be in danger in the future. Humph, 2 deities, including the Crane deity, said it in person. The Crane deity didn't pursue it anymore. What else can others do? What? 2 deities issued an order to pardon his sins? He was pardoned from a felon to a civilian? 2 points to correct you. First, the deities didn't issue an order, but manifested their divine bodies and pardoned him in person. Second, he was not pardoned as a civilian, but entrusted with important tasks. Holy **T. No way. Kidnapping the descendants of deities, not only was he pardoned, but he was entrusted with important tasks? Did they enlist him as a law enforcement officer? This is incredible, isn't it? Hey, what's a law enforcement officer? He was now the representative of the 2 deities. With the divine order in his hand, he was in charge of the law enforcement team and the common people. Both cavern worlds were under his command. Anyone who disobeyed would be disrespectful to the gods. Right now, he is equivalent to a god of 2 domains. When the restaurant heard the news, it was deathly silent. Several wine cups fell to the ground and shattered. You're not joking, right? The 2 gods had given him the supreme token of the gods, the divine order. He became the spokesperson of the 2 gods. In the restaurant, even a strand of hair falling to the ground could be heard. Everyone pricked up their ears, listening to the story that sounded like a fairy tale. Being stared at by so many people, The burly man who spoke suddenly felt excited and excited. He was usually an inconspicuous little warrior, but now he was being stared at by so many experts in the restaurant. A sense of pride welled up in his heart. Without hesitation, he drank up a bowl of wine and slapped the table heroically. You don't know that Lord Su is the reincarnation of a real dragon, and he has the 9 dragons' god soul. Kidnapping He Xianran was a capital crime. However, he performed the 9 dragons' god skill, stirred up the Star River, reversed the universe, and shattered the stars, which caused such a great disturbance, and attracted the arrival of the 2 deities. When the 2 deities saw the 9 dragons' god soul, they concluded that Lord Su was a peerless genius chosen by the heavens. Not only did they pardon him, but they also gave him a divine order. Chapter 1140. When they arrived, the whole world had been occupied by the demons, destroyed and devoured. As Su Yu saw that day, out of the billions of creatures in the cavern world, only a few hundred returned. The law enforcement team, led by Yang Tai, had all perished in it. The abandoned cavern world was being devoured faster and faster. The Great Eastern Alliance had noticed this anomaly and was stepping up its defense. It had formulated some policies, including going to the vicinity of the Divine Doctor's place to inquire about the situation of the demonic dimension. However, every time, the whole army was annihilated. Even a prospective deity was buried in it. The Great Eastern Alliance was in danger, and it was not a peaceful world as it appeared. Dealing with the demons is the most important thing. Besides, I am under the orders of the 2 deities after all, and it is not my own influence. Once the tacit agreement between the 2 deities is broken one day, the divine order will be taken back, and I will be punished by the crane deity. I am afraid it is inevitable. The crane deity had suffered such a great loss. If he was in a good mood, he might spare Su Yu's life. If he was in a bad mood, or if the people of the crane deity's family were dissatisfied, he might kill Su Yu at any time. At that time, the Jing deity would probably not plead for mercy for Su Yu. Therefore, he had to strengthen his strength in a limited time. Su Yu hoped to hide his strength and bide his time, but he did not know that a storm was slowly approaching him. In the cavern world of the book deity, an elegant man with a jade-like face was lying under a tree, reading a book quietly. The book was very special, and the material of the book seemed to be made of some special material, which was very smooth and emitted a faint sense of gentleness. As he was reading, an old man with a dark face appeared like a ghost. He bent down and said respectfully, "Young master, the investigation has been completed." "Say it." The elegant man's slender and fair fingers gently turned the pages of the book. The dark-faced old man said, "According to my investigation in the cavern world of Jiuzhou, I unearthed the scene before and after Qin Kuo's murder with the help of the light returning mirror. Please have a look, young master." The old man took out a jade-like mirror, which was very smooth. It was made of the bones of a deity, which contained the divine path of the deity when he was alive, and could detect the things in the past 5 years. Qin Kuo had only been murdered for a year, so it was easy for this mirror to recall the scene of his murder. An image appeared in the jade mirror. Qin Kuo stopped a silver-haired youth from killing the Central Prefecture's king. Originally, the silver-haired youth had put down his weapon, but when the Central Prefecture's king walked over, the youth suddenly attacked and killed the Central Prefecture's king with an arrow. After that, Qin Kuo attacked. In the end, his body was destroyed by Su Yu, and his soul was taken away by Su Yu. Every scene was extremely clear. The dark-faced old man did not move, waiting for the young master to speak. The young master glanced over and said, "Then what are we waiting for? Go and find out the whereabouts of that young man. Capture him and hand him over to that god." The dark-faced elder looked troubled. "He is in the Great Eastern Alliance." The young master raised his eyebrows slightly. "Oh, that would be even better. A creature from the 9 states has no foundation in the Great Eastern Alliance, so it is easy to kill him." However, the black-faced elder said awkwardly, "Young master, this person is not ordinary. I wonder if you have heard of his name before. His name is Su Yu. Do you find it familiar?" Suyu? The young master raised his eyebrows. Are you trying to say that he is the true dragon son of heaven that has been the talk of the town recently? The Suyu that the Jing deity and the crane deity have bestowed with the divine order? The dark-faced elder nodded slightly. Touching him would affect the whole situation. The book deity would not agree to make the Jing deity and the crane deity his enemy at the same time. The young master fell into deep thought. After a long while, he stood up and said, "The people are foolish. They really think that Suyu is the true dragon son of heaven. I think there must be a secret that we do not know about. As long as we find out the secret, we can find out Suyu's weakness. If we send someone to investigate, it will take a lot of time. That deity can't wait for too long. I will use the book deity's treasury." The book deity's treasury recorded everything in the world. It could easily detect many secrets of the continent that were not known to others. As the book deity, knowledge was his divine path. The dark-faced elder was delighted. If he used this item, he should be able to quickly deduce the cause and effect relationship. However, using the book deity's treasury once would consume a considerable amount of resources. It was enough to fill a small cavern world. The young master entered the study and came back soon with a faint smile on his face. What an extremely intelligent person. The cause and effect relationship is so complicated that even the book deity's treasury could not deduce it. When he finished, he flicked his finger and a cluster of emerald green light shot between the dark-faced elder's brows, letting him know the details. After the dark-faced elder digested it, he looked surprised. TSK, what a brilliant scheme. It's flawless. Called Sang Tie here, the young master said. The dark-faced elder said in surprise, "Young master, Sang Tie has been poisoned and will not live for long. Young master, have you decided to—" As he spoke, the dark-faced elder could not help but feel a chill run down his spine. The young master said placidly, "Just let him play his last role before he dies and hand him over to—" He began to ponder. The dark-faced elder said, "To the Jing deity, of course. As long as Sang Tie tells the Jing deity the truth of Jing Bai's murder, the case will not need to be investigated, and the Jing deity will take back the divine order. I'm sure the crane deity will also take it back soon. By then, a little fox who can no longer use her power to intimidate others will be captured and killed. Who will care about it?" However, the young master shook his head lightly. "No. If Sang Tie is handed over to the Jing deity, he will definitely be killed by the Jing deity, because the Jing deity is not willing to disclose the truth. If he is handed over to the crane deity, he will also be killed, and if he is handed over to Suyu, he will be killed even more." The dark-faced elder said, "Then, who is suitable to hand him over to?" The young master said with a faint smile, "Of course, whoever hates Suyu the most. The people who hate Suyu the most must be the people of the crane deity's family, right? Among them, the one who hates Suyu the most should be Xianran, right? However, if Sang Tie is handed over to Xianran will definitely kill him, and the ones who are most willing to disclose the truth are her two brothers. Once they hand over Sang Tie and reveal the truth to the public, the matter of Xianran killing the deity's descendant will be exposed, and nobody can save her. Getting rid of Xianran and making Suyu lose the divine order at the same time. These two brothers must be very willing. As for handing it over to one of the two brothers, of course, it will be the elder brother, He Jinghong. This person is resourceful, and ruthless enough. He is the most suitable person to handle this matter. Then go and do it. We just need to quietly wait for Suyu to lose power and then immediately capture him," the young master said lightly. The dark-faced elder nodded. "I will arrange for strong men to ambush around Suyu's mansion. We must subdue him as soon as he is deprived of the divine order." The young master nodded. "Just in case, call on the 3 youths of the bamboo garden. They're all peak mortal fairies. Including you, there will be a total of 4 peak mortal fairies. It should be foolproof." "Yes." The dark-faced elder was delighted. When the 3 youths of the bamboo garden joined forces, their strength was extremely terrifying. They could kill a peak mortal fairy in a breath's time. At this moment, in Su Yu's mansion, several rather influential guests were welcomed. Yang Tai was among them. Su Yu kept a respectful distance from this young master of the All-Access Chamber of Commerce. How could he hide the fact that he instructed the Crane deity's family to pursue him from someone with ulterior motives? He also brought another guest with him, a woman with a gentle expression. Her appearance was not considered beautiful. She was soft and weak, and her personality was very tranquil. It was obvious that they had come to visit Su Yu, but this woman had been very quiet all along. Most of the time, she was just listening. Until now, Su Yu still did not know her name, let alone her identity. But judging from Yang Tai's attitude, her identity should not be too bad. Brother Su, I really did not expect that you would be entrusted with such an important task, Yang Tai said dryly. Su Yu nodded in response. In the past 2 months, countless talents from the God realm had visited Su Yu. Many of them had come to inquire about the truth. But how could Su Yu reveal his true relationship with the two deities? He had always given outsiders a vague answer. Su Yu had yet to understand the purpose of the two in front of him. He was a little impatient and was about to end the conversation when the woman finally spoke. Imperial Envoy Su, I have come to visit because I know that you are from Jiuzhou. Our Sanluo law enforcing team has recently been investigating the death of law enforcer Qinque in Jiuzhou. You are from Jiuzhou. Do you have any clues? Su Yu's heart thumped. So that was their purpose. Due to Su Yu's current identity, it was inconvenient to ask directly. Hence, he had been beating around the bush until now. If that was the case, the delicate woman in front of him was also from the Sanluo law enforcing team. He just did not know what her ranking was. Su Yu's expression was calm as he revealed a look of pity. When I left Jiuzhou, I did not see law enforcer Qinque. However, I heard that they came to Jiuzhou to hunt down the remnant soul of the demonic god of withered bones. Could it be related to that demonic creature? The delicate woman shook her head. Probably not. The remnant soul of the demonic god of withered bones has already been captured by Meng Ku. Qinque was not killed by him. According to my speculation, it should be the doing of a peak mortal fairy. May I ask if Imperial Envoy Su has any information about the strong men of Jiuzhou? She had no other choice but to look for Su Yu. Jiuzhou had been emptied, and the creatures of Jiuzhou were nowhere to be found. The only person who knew was Su Yu. Su Yu's heart skipped a beat. In a low voice, he said, To tell you the truth, Jiuzhou does have 2 beings who are no weaker than peak mortal fairies, and both of them are demons. The delicate woman in Yang Tai's eyes flashed. 2 demons with peak mortal fairies? If that was the case, how could a declining world like the cavern world of Jiuzhou resist them? Where are the 2 demonic creatures? The delicate woman asked hurriedly. So you could not help but laugh. Was she really a member of the Sanluo law enforcing team? One of them was destroyed by the United People of Jiuzhou. The other one survived and escaped to the Great Eastern Alliance. If anyone could kill law enforcer Qinque, it could only be one of those 2 demonic creatures, Su Yu said. Chapter 1141. Thank you. I'll go back and put up a warrant. The delicate woman got up and left. She stopped at the door and left a communication jade pendant to Su Yu. If you think of anything else, just contact me. Oh, my name is Sheng Yuanxin. Su Yu nodded subconsciously. Then his face froze and his heart thumped violently. Sheng Yuanxin, the captain of the Sanluo law enforcing team, a legendary prospective deity. Su Yu felt a chill down his spine. Fortunately, he was calm and didn't let this prospective deity notice anything. Sheng Yuanxin didn't feel strange about Su Yu's expression. She nodded apologetically with a red face and turned to leave. Yang Tai looked at Su Yu thoughtfully. Although the intelligence of the All-Access Chamber of Commerce didn't involve the Jiuzhou cavern world, from what he knew, before Su Yu boarded the ship, a Sanluo law enforcing team left in a hurry. It was impossible to say that there was no cause and effect. However, there was no evidence, so Yang Tai couldn't say much. Even if there was evidence. Thinking of Su Yu's meticulous mind, Yang Tai shook his head and gave up the idea of being an enemy. After they left, Su Yu quietly pondered. Su Yu, the evil god, and even the sacred Kailan didn't know about the killing of the law enforcer Qinque. It shouldn't be leaked. How could he know that the evil god was right? The Great Eastern Alliance had some mysterious means and might be able to find out the truth. Now the young master of the book deity had secretly woven a giant net to put Suyu to death. While Suyu was pondering, a black shadow suddenly flashed outside the door. Suyu's face changed. In the house, there were peak mortal fairies recruited from the crane deity's family, who could sneak into his house without disturbing those mortal fairies. Surprised and suspicious, Suyu opened the door and saw a note left at the door. He shook his sleeves and rolled it up in the air to prevent hidden weapons. When it was unfolded, a line of small words was revealed. After reading it, Suyu's pupils shrank fiercely. His face changed several times, and he paced back and forth in the house. Xianran, come in, Suyu said after a long time. Xianran was full of anger and came in reluctantly. However, when she saw Suyu's serious face, she was moved. I have good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? Suyu said. Xianran rolled her eyes. Good news. The good news is that I'm going to let you go. From now on, I won't restrict your freedom. You can leave now. Suyu didn't seem to be joking. Xianran was overjoyed, but she did not move. Her pretty eyes turned. Then what's the bad news? Suyu stared at Xianran for a moment and said in a deep voice, the bad news is that I, the Imperial Envoy, will hunt you down to the ends of the earth. Xianran sneered. What exactly do you want? Whoosh, take a look at it yourself. Suyu threw the paper over to her. Filled with amazement, Xianran opened it and took a look. Her facial expression suddenly changed, and she was filled with hatred and anger. Song Tie is actually still alive? He fell into the hands of my big brother? Xianran was well aware of how her two brothers viewed her, the younger sister who was most favored by their father. They could not wait for her to die. Her second brother was still all right, but her eldest brother was always looking forward to her early death so that her father could make him the successor of the deity's position. Now that Song Tie had fallen into his hands, once he announced the news to the world, even the crane deity wouldn't be able to protect her. No wonder Suyu asked her to start running. She was at death's door. If you choose to run, I can also take the opportunity to hunt you down and then run away, far away from the divine crane cavern world. It's the best of both worlds. How about it? Suyu said. Once Xianran was convicted in this way, the crane deity would definitely vent his anger on Suyu, and then he would die without a burial place. It would be better to take advantage of the fact that Xianran had absconded to avoid punishment to hunt him down before the matter broke out. When the news broke out, Suyu would have fled to somewhere unknown. Don't even think about it, Xianran said angrily. How could she be willing to resign herself to death and let her brother have his way? Unexpectedly, not only was Suyu not angry, but he revealed a faint smile instead. I am relieved that you can think that way. Upon hearing that, Xianran showed a hint of delight. You have a plan? Xianran was terrified of Suyu's scheming ability from the bottom of her heart. But if he was an ally, it was simply a surprise. Now Suyu and she were in the same boat, and neither of them was willing to let the news break out. Not a plan, but a set of detailed plans. Suyu smiled slightly. Xianran's eyes were full of joy. Tell me quickly, what do you need? I'll do my best to help you. Suyu hesitated for a long time before he said, This is a set of plans for you and for me. It is a way to solve the problem once and for all. If you can accept it, then we will start to execute it. If you can't accept it, just forget I said it. Xianran said solemnly, I am about to die. What is there to hesitate about? Suyu nodded slowly and took out the overall plan for her to consult in detail. After listening, Xianran's face changed dramatically, and she was deathly pale. Trembling, she said, You want me, Suyu sighed. Oh, forget it. The risk of this plan is too great, and it is not much lower than the risk of you and me escaping now. However, Xianran did not immediately refuse. After pondering for a long time, a cold light flashed in her phoenix eyes. What do you think the probability of success is? Suyu pondered for a moment and said, Less than 10%. 10% is not low. If it succeeds, there will be no more obstacles from now on. In the face of death, Xianran's desire to live erupted. Suyu said, "If the identity of the person who threw the note can be confirmed, then the probability can reach more than 50%. I hope my guess is right." In the next 2 days, Suyu finally left the mansion and walked around the crane deity's cavern world. His every move was being watched, and it could not be hidden from the observant people. However, no one would be surprised by Suyu's behavior, especially for the people of the crane deity's family. And it was not strange at all, because Suyu was shouldering the identity of the imperial envoy investigating a case. If he did not come out for a stroll and pretended to investigate, how could he explain to the two deities? Only He Jinghong paid special attention to Suyu's actions, and he paid attention to all the people Suyu had contacted and said, no matter what. Although he had the divine order in his hand, this was the world of the crane deity's family after all, and Suyu's every move could not escape their surveillance. After confirming that Suyu did not do anything unusual, He Jinghong was relieved, and a trace of cold light flashed in his eyes from time to time. 2 days later, in the secret room, He Xianran returned a token to Suyu. "How's the preparation?" Suyu asked. He Xianran played with the ends of her hair charmingly and sneered with a unique charm. "I'm waiting for my brother to kill me." Swoosh! Soon, a shriveled old man rushed in from outside the door, and his expression was extremely unpleasant. "Third miss, something big has happened." "What big thing?" He Xianran pretended not to know and looked at Suyu. The opportunity to change fate had come. Julong's face was full of cold sweat. "Third miss, something bad has happened. Buqiei has been discovered, and he has something to report to the Sanluo law enforcing team. I got the news and immediately came to inform you." He Xianran showed a trace of a cold smile and opened the stone door anxiously, and her face changed greatly. "What? Isn't he missing? How is he still alive?" Julong was so anxious that his forehead was full of sweat. "Miss, I don't know either. Logically, even if he is not dead, it is impossible for him to come to our crane deity's cavern world. Miss, think of a way to stop him. Once Buqiei arrives at the Sanluo law enforcing team station here, everything will be too late." He Xianran said, "I am imprisoned now, and I can't get away." He Xianran looked at Suyu with a troubled expression. Suyu's face was solemn. "You and I are both in trouble now. I will go with you in the name of the imperial envoy. Buqiei must be stopped." The two left the mansion immediately, looking extremely hurried. When they arrived at the station, they saw a few strangers carrying Buqiei to the station of the Sanluo law enforcing team in the crane deity's cavern world. Buqiei's face was pitch black, and he looked like he was about to die. Outside the Sanluo law enforcing team, there was a young girl who looked like a servant, patiently receiving them. "Lord Bu, may I ask what you were saying?" the servant asked. Buqiei took a deep breath and said with difficulty, "I want to report He Xianran. She killed Jing Bai, killed the deity's heir. Please investigate immediately, Sanluo law enforcing team." The evidence had appeared, and it was in public and in front of the Sanluo law enforcing team. Everything was over. He Xianran trembled all over, and her expression changed again and again. Finally, she clenched her teeth and suddenly attacked Suyu, preparing to escape. However, Suyu reacted very quickly and immediately took out the divine order. Under the illumination of the divine light, He Xianran trembled all over and fell to the ground. Suyu took out the chain and said with a sigh, "So you really are the culprit. Please cooperate with the investigation." When he finished, he carried her and brought her to the mansion of the crane deity's family. Upon receiving the news, the Sanluo law enforcing team, who felt the matter was of great importance, also sent an important member of the Sanluo law enforcing team, Xiao Xian, to deal with it personally. The crane deity was in the midst of training, and he was very concerned about He Xianran's matter. He wanted to stay in this stalemate for a period of time, and when the situation calmed down and the matter was no longer a big deal, he would let it go. Anyway, the evidence had been destroyed, and He Xianran would be fine. Among his 3 children, He Xianran was the one he was most willing to inherit the deity's position, and he did not want anything to happen to her. Right at this moment, He Jinghong's panicked voice came from outside the secret chamber. "Father, bad news. Boutier exposed my sister. The Sunluo law enforcing team is here." Upon hearing that, the crane deity felt as if he had been struck by a thunderbolt. He turned around and asked calmly, "Where is Xianran? Did you inform her to escape?" Since the Sunluo law enforcing team had intervened, it meant that it could no longer be hidden in broad daylight. He only hoped that Xianran could escape quickly. It's too late. That Su Yu, upon seeing the evidence, could no longer conceal it. In order to please the Jing deity, he made up his mind and captured his sister, who was about to escape and has now been sent to my mansion, waiting for your decision, Father. Chapter 1142. He thought a smart person like Su Yu should know how much he and the entire crane deity's family wanted to kill him. If Xianran died, Su Yu would lose his value and would suffer the revenge of the entire family. But he actually did the exact opposite. "Father, please give the order. The Sunluo law enforcing team has found out that the evidence shown by Boutier is true. As long as you give the order, he will kill my sister in public." Hearing this, the crane deity's eyes were full of hatred. "Ow, how can I do it?" the crane deity said in grief and indignation. He couldn't save Xianran at this point. He said disappointedly, "Let him handle it himself," and the crane deity's eyes were filled with coldness. "Take back the divine order. Set up Xianran's memorial tablet. I will take his head and offer it to Xianran. Without Su Yu, this matter wouldn't have come to this." What was more hateful was that Su Yu captured Xianran to save himself. This hatred was absolutely irreconcilable. Outside the secret chamber, He Jinghong's indignant face was filled with ecstasy. As expected, everything was as expected. Handing over Boutier would be the death of both Xianran and Su Yu. With ecstasy, He Jinghong came to the outer yard and said to Xiao Xian with grief and helplessness, "The crane deity has decreed that the Sunluo law enforcing team should handle this matter impartially. The crane deity won't blame you." A hint of helplessness appeared on Xiao Xian's stern face. If it weren't for the Alliance Hall, he wouldn't have done this. Killing Xianran was the rule, but the crane deity might not hate him. He had no other choice. Glancing at the people of the crane deity's family and the outsiders who came to watch the show, he raised his voice and yelled, "Xianran killed the deity's descendant and should be beheaded according to the law. Xianran, do you plead guilty?" Xianran said sadly, "I didn't. How can I plead guilty?" What a joke. Who would plead guilty? He Jinghong sneered excitedly. "It's coming to an end." Xiao Xian glanced at Boutier. "The prisoner refuses to plead guilty. As the law enforcing team, I will extract your memory and show it to everyone. If so, the truth would be revealed." He Jinghong sneered inwardly. The outcome had been decided. However, He Jinghong's face suddenly stiffened when Boutier sighed and said, "Of course she won't admit to it, because she wasn't the one who killed Jingbai." "What? Jingbai wasn't killed by her?" Xiao Xian's face turned cold. "Then what did you mean by exposing me earlier?" Boutier looked at He Jinghong with some fear and said hesitantly, "It was He Jinghong who forced me to lie. Otherwise, not only would he not give me the antidote, but he would also exterminate the bloodline I left in this world." "What?" He Jinghong, who was laughing coldly, looked as if he had been struck by lightning. He said in shock, "What nonsense are you talking about? What did I ever threaten you?" Boutier said, "Then how do you explain this scene?" Boutier took out a jade pendant and crushed it on the spot. There was no sound on the screen, but He Jinghong and a few of his trusted subordinates were standing in front of Boutier's bed, discussing, their faces revealing cold smiles from time to time. No matter how one looked at it, there was a connection between He Jinghong and Boutier. Suddenly, everyone came to a realization. With Boutier's own testimony and the impression that was secretly recorded, who would believe that He Jinghong didn't frame Xianran? He Jinghong couldn't defend himself. He was indeed plotting something, but there was no need for him to threaten him. Boutier had taken the initiative to expose Xianran. He wasn't framing her at all. He was just taking advantage of the situation to bring Bu Tiei to the front of the Sun Luo law enforcement team. Evil creature. A deafening roar came from the depths of the mansion. The crane deity was completely infuriated. He knew that He Jinghong indeed didn't threaten Butier, but he found Butier from somewhere and asked Butier to publicly announce the truth. This was blatantly defying his will, and he was framing He Xianran. Overwhelmed with rage, a beam of divine power destroyed countless pavilions and towers, shooting from the backyard. He Jinghong's face was deathly pale, and he fled in panic. "No, father." As his voice stopped abruptly, He Jinghong's chest was pierced through, and he was half dead. Then, a second beam of divine power shot over. It was going to kill He Jinghong directly. At that moment, Suyu suddenly made a move and quickly grabbed He Jinghong to dodge. He said hurriedly, "Crane deity, please calm down." The furious voice of the crane deity came from the backyard, but there was no more divine power shooting over. "I'm sorry for my incompetence in teaching my son," the crane deity said. Everyone could tell that the crane deity was chasing away his guests, and they left gloatingly, as if they had just watched another good show. Xiao Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Although he was displeased that He Jinghong dared to slander the Sun Luo law enforcement team, he gave up after seeing He Jinghong's half-dead state and left. When the outsiders left, the crane deity's voice came. He Xianran, Buqiei, He Jinghong, He Rushu, and Suyu, come to my secret chamber. In the secret chamber, the crane deity stared at everyone present and said coldly, "Tell me, what's going on?" He Xianran thought for a moment and said, "Father, let me explain. Suyu and I received a secret message from my second brother. My eldest brother found Buqiei and was going to let him expose me. So Suyu and I decided to beat him at his own game. We pretended not to know anything, but secretly discussed with my second brother in advance. As long as he could retract his confession in public, I would give him the antidote, so he agreed. In this way, my worries would be resolved once and for all." The person who passed the note was none other than the seemingly honest and self-abased Hirushu. Although Suyu was being watched and could not get in touch with Butier to pass the message to him, Hirushu, an insignificant character, was the best choice. He could persuade Butier to retract his confession on the spot. The crane deity pondered for a moment. Indeed, after the incident today, no matter how Butier exposed him in the future, the Sun Luo law enforcement team would consider whether he would slander them again. He Xianran could be said to have no worries after this incident. However, he stared at Suyu. "It was your idea, wasn't it?" Suyu said, "It was urgent, and I didn't have time to inform the crane deity. Please forgive me." "Humph," He Xianran was saved, "but you almost killed He Jinghong." The crane deity's face was unfriendly. Now that He Xianran's worries were resolved, Suyu could be eliminated. Suyu said, "In this world, which parent would really kill their own child?" If the crane deity wanted to kill He Jinghong, did he need to use 2 rays of divine power? One was enough to annihilate him, but the first one only caused him serious injuries. It was obviously a show for the outsiders, hoping that someone could drag him away before the second attack. The crane deity's face was still full of murderous intent. He had no intention of accepting this favor. Even without Suyu, there should be other people who could free He Jinghong. However, in the situation just now, apart from Suyu, no one else understood the crane deity's meaning. Heartless, heartless, Suyu branded the crane deity as such. However, the more the crane deity behaved this way, the more determined Suyu became. Hand over the divine order. The crane deity almost did not conceal his murderous intent and demanded the divine order directly. Suyu was expressionless. He handed the crane deity's divine order to him, and now only the Jing deity's divine order was left in his hands. As long as he still had the divine order, Suyu would still be the Jing deity's representative. If the crane deity wanted to kill Suyu, he would have to think twice. "Crane deity, there's something I think you should know." Suyu pointed at He Jinghong. "Don't you want to know who handed Butier to him? Butier has been missing for so long. Why did he show up now? Is it possible that there's no mastermind behind this?" The crane deity squinted his eyes. He had thought of this too. He flicked his finger on He Jinghong's head and closed his eyes. After a short while, he opened his eyes abruptly and said coldly, "It's you, book deity." The person who gave He Jinghong Butier was none other than the book deity's man. Although that person had concealed himself very well, how could he hide from a deity's eyes? Book deity? Su Yu's eyes turned. He had an intuition that this matter was aimed at him, but he had an excuse. He said gravely, "Crane deity, this book deity's intention has to be cautious." He didn't send him earlier or later, but he just had a strike when the Crane deity and the Jing deity's relationship had stabilized. There must be more to it than meets the eye. He understood this even without Su Yu's explanation. "Xianran, I'll leave the family affairs to you for the time being. I have to make a trip to the Jing deity's cavern world." The Crane deity pondered for a moment and felt that this was a serious matter, and it was necessary to discuss this matter with the Jing deity face to face. In fact, Su Yu had been wondering what kind of friendship it was that the death of his son was not enough to tear them apart. The Crane deity and the Jing deity were not merely good friends. However, as the Crane deity left, Su Yu and He Xianran's eyes met, and a cold gleam flickered in their eyes. Chapter 1143. He Xianran walked Su Yu to the entrance of the secret chamber. "You lost the Crane deity's token, and that mansion will be taken back. I will arrange for you to stay in the Crane deity's family," He Xianran said. Su Yu thought for a while and nodded. "Okay, that mansion is not safe." Sensing the hostility from the book deity's cavern world, Su Yu did not dare to be careless. They walked to a deserted place. He Xianran stared at Su Yu and said, "According to the plan, my brother should have been killed by my furious father. Why did you change your mind and save him at the last moment? Do you have other plans?" Su Yu laughed. "Miss Xianran, do you really think the Crane deity will kill your brother?" He Xianran thought about it seriously and shook her head. "As you said, if my father really wanted to kill him, one divine power is enough to kill him 10 times. He used 2 divine powers in a row, and it was really unbearable." Even if Su Yu did not intervene in the end, the Crane deity would find another way to save his life. "Well, anyway, after the plan is completed, I can deal with him again." He Xianran gave up and turned her head. "I hope we can continue to cooperate." Su Yu smiled gently. "Of course." He Xianran led Su Yu to a house and turned to leave. The moment she turned around, a trace of killing intent appeared on her face. She used to want to kill Su Yu because he knew her secret. Now she wanted to kill Su Yu because he was too scary. Su Yu's eyes flashed, and he entered the house as if nothing had happened. The Crane deity could go anywhere in his cavern world. He appeared at the border of the Crane deity and the Jing deity, and unexpectedly found the army of the Jing deity's cavern world at the border of the 2 worlds was drilling hard. There is no war at this time. Why is the Jing deity drilling the soldiers? The Crane deity glanced around casually and found that more than half of the border between the 2 caverns were occupied by soldiers. With some suspicion in his heart, the Crane deity stepped into the Jing deity's cavern world. As the Jing deity, the arrival of another deity undoubtedly alarmed him, and he came to the border with a thought. The 2 stood across the border, facing each other from afar. Although both of them were willing to maintain a superficial relationship, Jing Bai's death had left a crack. "Jing deity, the book deity is up to something." The Crane deity told him about Boutier's appearance. Of course, according to him, Boutier was instigated by the book deity and instigated the relationship between the 2 deities. The Crane deity would never admit that He Xianran had killed Jing Bai. After listening to him, the Jing deity was indifferent and said, "The book deity is wandering outside. It should be the book deity's subordinate force, not necessarily the book deity's intention." There was a moment of silence between the 2 of them, and a faintly discernible estrangement formed. The Crane deity, of course, knew that the book deity wouldn't use such a petty trick to destroy the connection between him and the Jing deity. He came here because he had something else to say. "The carnival of all gods is about to begin. We need to be fully prepared," the Crane deity said. "The carnival of all gods." The Jing deity's expression became much more solemn. He nodded deeply. I understand. What you and I are about to do is, after all, against the rules of the 100 gods. We cannot leak out the slightest bit of information. The crane deity revealed a smile. The Jing deity glanced at the crane deity, as if he was trying to see through the crane deity's body that was hidden under the white divine radiance. He said worriedly, "I'm ready here, but crane deity, can your body hold out until the carnival of all gods?" The crane deity's pupils shrank slightly, and he became vigilant. He said with a relaxed smile, "It's an old injury. It's nothing." "Oh, that's good," the Jing deity said. The crane deity squinted his eyes, trying to find out something from the Jing deity. He glanced at the soldiers at the border subconsciously and said, "Jing deity, are you training the soldiers at the border? Are you preparing for war?" The Jing deity said calmly, "They were mobilized by Su Yu with the divine order." What a joke. Although he said so, what he was thinking was not the case. The Jing deity had always been on guard against the crane deity. How could he not be vigilant since their relationship on the battleship was almost torn apart? However, due to their relationship, it was inconvenient for him to order the defense at the border. In the end, Su Yu asked Xianran to come here with the divine order a few days ago, saying that the demons have been running rampant recently, and they had to be on guard at the border of the Alliance continent. Commanding the soldiers to be stationed at the border with the divine order was exactly what the Jing deity wanted. Now that the crane deity had asked about it, he could shift the responsibility to Su Yu. The crane deity became even more vigilant. Stationing soldiers at the border, without the Jing deity's approval, could such a big matter be carried out by the divine order? A hint of a sneer emerged in the crane deity's mind. The carnival of all gods was not over yet, and the Jing deity was already prepared to part ways. Wait, the crane deity thought of his own injury, and his heart shuddered. Could it be that these soldiers were not only guarding against the crane deity's cavern world, but also had other plans? All of a sudden, the crane deity was full of doubts, and thought to himself, even though the Jing deity was indifferent to kinship, he loved Jing Bai from the bottom of his heart. Could it be that the Jing deity harbored resentment and was ready to use force? With this thought, the crane deity became unusually vigilant. However, he was very clear that as long as he was alive, the Jing deity would not dare to send troops to the crane deity's cavern world. "Oh, it's Su Yu." The crane deity thought for a while, and a hint of viciousness flashed in his eyes. "Jing deity, your divine order is a hidden danger with him, after all. Just take it back." The Jing deity thought for a while and nodded in agreement without much hesitation. With a move of his mind, a golden token returned to his palm. Seeing that, the crane deity's murderous intent was no longer concealed. Su Yu had plotted against him, a dignified deity with an overt scheme. Heaven would not forgive him if he did not die. Sensing the murderous intent, the Jing deity's face was indifferent. He did not care whether Su Yu died or not. The two deities looked at each other and went their separate ways. Upon returning to the crane deity's family, the first thing the crane deity did was to search for Su Yu. However, the mansion was empty, and Su Yu's scent was found in his own family. The crane deity sneered. Did Su Yu think that his death in his own family would tarnish the reputation of the crane deity's family, so he would not dare to attack Su Yu? Childish. You are just a commoner. Even if you die in the deity's mansion, so what? Who will avenge you? The crane deity's murderous intent permeated the air and descended upon the house abruptly. Su Yu, who knew nothing about it, was startled by the sudden appearance of a deity in front of him. He rose to his feet hastily. "Greetings, crane deity." The crane deity's whole body was shimmering with white divine light, and Su Yu could not see the face that was filled with murderous intent. "Su Yu, do you have anything to say?" The crane deity was eager to know what this ant who had plotted against him had to say before his death. Su Yu acted as if he did not know he was facing imminent disaster, and said in surprise, "A deity is a deity. You can even tell that I have something to say. I was just wondering how to contact the crane deity, and something big happened in the family right after you left." "What kind of big thing can happen in the deity's family?" The crane deity stared at Su Yu's performance mockingly. Su Yu said, Miss Xianran is dying. Upon hearing that, the crane deity's first reaction was shock. This was really a big thing. His second reaction was rage. His third reaction was overflowing with murderous intent. The divine light on the surface of his body vibrated, and a pair of infuriated eyes could be seen staring at Su Yu coldly. You did it. He almost instinctively believed that it was Su Yu who did it. Su Yu said, I haven't taken a step out of the house since I entered, and the crane deity's people are not very friendly to me, and are watching me everywhere. How could I do it? After calming down for a while, the crane deity eliminated Su Yu as a suspect. What would Su Yu gain by killing He Xianran? Her two brothers, on the other hand, would benefit immensely. Even so, it would not prevent the crane deity from killing Su Yu conveniently. Su Yu said again, I don't have much, but I am born with an unusual body that can transfer vitality into people. If there is anything I can do, please let me know, crane deity. What? The crane deity glanced at Su Yu and found that his body was filled with vitality, which was unusually vigorous. Generally speaking, the stronger one's cultivation was, the more vigorous his vitality would be. But if he transferred it to others easily, he would be weakened. For someone like Su Yu, whose vitality was excessively vigorous, losing some vitality wouldn't affect him at all. After a slight hesitation, the crane deity withdrew his murderous intent and said approvingly, I am very pleased that you have such intentions. Well, come with me to take a look at Xianran. He Xianran's condition was very serious. To be precise, she was about to die. Her face was pitch black, and layers of pitch black liquid were flowing out from her limbs and bones. Her vitality was extremely weak. Xianran, the crane deity, was angry and distressed, and after examining her, his face darkened. The extreme, frigid water. The people in front of the bed heard the name of this item, and their expressions changed. The extreme, frigid water originated from the Jing deity's cavern world and could be condensed from the century-old well with extremely dense Yin energy. It contained the extreme Yin energy and was a fatal poison to mortal fairies. This item was extremely difficult to find in the outside world and was said to cost 1,000,000 divine coins per drop, but it was usually not available even with money. Everyone was shocked, and they all thought of one person, the Jing deity. He Xianran had finally gotten rid of the accusation of killing Jing Bai, and the Jing deity was the most indignant one. Seeing the crane deity's expression changing, Su Yu said, Don't fall into the trap, crane deity. If the Jing deity wanted to kill Xianran, why would he leave her alive? I'm afraid someone is framing her and destroying the relationship between the two deities. The crane deity snorted secretly. If he didn't know that the Jing deity had stationed troops at the border, he certainly wouldn't believe it was the Jing deity's doing. But after the meeting just now, the crane deity was 100 times more vigilant towards the Jing deity. After examining He Xianran, the crane deity said, There's no antidote for the extreme frigid water unless the Jing deity and the Jing deity's people treat it personally. The people of the crane deity's family had different expressions. So, He Xianran was hopeless. The only way is to use the godly spirit to reconstruct her body and soul, the crane deity said solemnly. In his heart, he was even more certain that this was the Jing deity's plot. He knew that his godly spirit had shrunk. It was difficult for him to maintain his godly level cultivation, but he deliberately threw a half-dead daughter to him. Should he save her or not? If he saved her, he would fall into the Jing deity's plot, and his godly spirit would be damaged, and he would lose his godly position. Then, the army at the border would press on, and the Jing deity would attack the crane deity's cavern world in the name of revenge. If he didn't save her, as a dignified deity, he would become a joke in the world of deities and be despised by the deities. He really loved Xianran, but it was impossible for him to give up his godly position for his daughter. However, he had to set an example in front of others. If there's no other way, I'll use my godly spirit. Upon hearing that, the people of the crane deity's family knelt down in fear. Crane deity, please take back your order. Crane deity, Your godly spirit can't be damaged anymore. The crane deity was injured by a demonic god in the immortal graveyard during one of his travels, and his godly spirit was almost destroyed. Now, his godly spirit had lost the ability to strengthen itself and was shrinking day by day. Now, the crane deity was at the end of his life, and if he used part of his godly spirit to save Xianran, he would lose his godly position. Without a deity, the crane deity's cavern world would be removed from the Great Eastern Alliance, and soon it would be banished to the Great Eastern Alliance, drifting alone in the galaxy and gradually declining. It might even be invaded by the demonic race and completely destroyed. The people pleaded anxiously, and if the crane deity insisted, they would stop him with their lives. At last, it was Suyu who said, "Crane deity, for the sake of the crane deity's family, please think twice." The crane deity took advantage of the situation. "Sigh, I'm a deity, but I don't even have the power to save my daughter. Since ancient times, it's hard to have both sides at the same time. Crane deity, you don't have to blame yourself," Suyu said. The crane deity looked sorrowful, sighed silently, and turned to leave. Before he left, he said, "Suyu, thank you for prolonging Shinran's life. In that case, it was not appropriate to kill Suyu for the time being. He would kill him after Xianran couldn't hold on any longer." The crane deity thought to himself. Soon, Suyu was left alone to transfuse vitality into Xianran. Xianran opened her weak eyes, and coldness flickered in her eyes. "Humph, my life is not as important as the godly spirit in his eyes." Even though he knew I was plotted against by the Jing deity, he would never fall out with him. "Father, you're in the 3rd year of junior high. Don't blame me for letting you down. Everything will go according to plan." Xianran's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. Suyu nodded slowly and said indifferently, "The crane deity is determined to kill me, so I can only destroy the deity." Chapter 1144. After transferring a trace of vitality into Xianran, Suyu said, "If I'm not wrong, your illness can be delayed for 7 days. After 7 days, you'll die." "I know, if I don't die, how can I hide it from my father?" Xianran said very easily. The extreme frigid water in her body was, of course, real. If she pretended to be poisoned by the extreme frigid water, how could she hide it from her father's eyes? But for the hope of destroying the deity, Xianran was willing to take this risk. "But I hope you can keep your promise and resurrect me," Xianran said. Under her calm expression, there was still a deep shock. The only reason why she dared to swallow the extreme frigid water was that even if she died, she could be resurrected by Suyu. She didn't believe it at first. Could there be such an ability to reverse life and death in this world? Even among the 100 gods, she had never heard of anyone with such an ability until she saw Suyu resurrect a dead creature with her own eyes. "Don't worry, without your words, it will be difficult for me to do it alone," Suyu said. At this moment, the communication jade pendant on Suyu's waist shook, and a trace of sound came through. After Suyu received it, his face was slightly dignified. "What happened?" Xianran asked. Suyu shook his head and said, "It has nothing to do with the plan. Some rascals are coveting around my former house." Xianran breathed a sigh of relief and thought about it. "Don't worry, no one dares to break into the crane deity's house." She didn't want Suyu to be in danger during this time. After all, it is a hidden danger. At present, during the implementation of the righteous task, nothing can happen. Suyu shook his head, implying that these people must be eradicated. Xianran thought for a while and said, "You now have no divine order and can no longer mobilize the strong people in the crane deity's cavern world to protect you. I will let Dulong and a group of people listen to your arrangements to eliminate the hidden danger as soon as possible. Since you came to the Great Eastern Alliance, you have not offended anyone. They're just some sneaky people. Don't worry about it." Suyu nodded to express his gratitude, but in his heart he shook his head. "Sneaky people? I'm afraid not." Xianran was too careless. Not long after, Dulong arrived with 4 strong people of the mortal fairy realm and was temporarily transferred to Suyu by Xianran. Suyu also gave them instructions in person. With that, Suyu left the crane deity's family and returned to his mansion. Julong led the other 4 people to guard Suyu's vicinity. Suyu was deep in thought in the house. He vaguely understood the intention of the mastermind behind the scenes in the cavern of the book deity. Suyu's divine order of the crane deity was forced out, and even the Jing deity's divine order was taken back. Could it be that someone saw through the delicate balance between me and the 2 deities, and that's why they threw Bu Qiyi out? Suyu narrowed his eyes as he pondered. He learned that the book deity had a treasure called the book deity's treasury. It was an intelligent treasure that collected information about the world and could analyze the cause and effect of the world. Could it be this thing? Why are the people from the book deity's cavern world targeting me? Suyu pondered. He didn't have any interaction with this world. In fact, he had never even set foot in this world. Hence, he didn't have any deep hatred for this world. All of a sudden, Suyu's heart skipped a beat. Wait, could it be that the book deity's cavern world has found out that I killed the law enforcer Qin Kuo without permission? Bu Qiyi, Qin Kuo, and Mengku all belong to the book deity's cavern world. If that was the case, it would make sense. Before one wave had subsided, another had arisen. It was extremely difficult to gain a foothold in the Great Eastern Alliance. In that case, the few strong men who coveted the mansion were most likely from the Great Eastern Alliance. As he pondered, Suyu took out a messaging jade pendant and sent a message. Having done that, Suyu sat down cross-legged as if nothing had happened and began to train quietly. It had been some time since he broke through the all-creation stage 2, and his foundation was already stable. So you could try to break through to the all-creation stage 3 at any time. While his cultivation was steadily advancing, Suyu's training in all aspects did not slack in the slightest. A few months ago, the heaven sun gazing at air technique was cultivated to the upper class of the illusionary soul realm. He could imitate any of the enemy's magical powers through the power of the soul, including the magical powers of the bloodline of the gods. In a battle, its usefulness was needless to say. After 2 months of training, he was even more adept at using this technique. If this was the case at the upper class realm, Suyu wondered what the effects would be at the top class realm. He was in urgent need of soul power now. If his soul power were to skyrocket again, he would certainly be able to cultivate the illusionary soul realm to the top class. He had ordered people to collect many ways and materials to enhance soul power in the world, at all costs, just to complete the illusionary soul realm as soon as possible. However, the intelligence network that Suyu had built was not extensive enough, and he needed to wait patiently. However, there was another precious technique that Suyu intended to try. With a flip of his palm, he took out a tattered secret scroll, the dragon form technique. This was the secret technique that he had obtained from the second deputy region master of the Heavenly Knife region. This technique transplanted a part of the real dragon's body into the body, and then activated it through a secret technique. Thus, in a short period of time, he could obtain some of the real dragon's power. The power of Qi Ming's dragon transformation was still fresh in Suyu's memory. This technique had been delayed until today because of the limitations of the cultivation conditions. First, it required a real dragon. The stronger the transplanted real dragon's body, the greater the power after the transformation. Second, it required at least a primordial spirit, which was the cultivation of all creations. In the past, before he reached the all creations realm, Suyu could only look on and lament his inadequacy even with the real dragon spirit scripture. Now, not only did he have the all creations realm, but there were also 9 real dragon spirit scriptures in his body. No, to be precise, there were 10 real dragon spirit scriptures. The last one had condensed a trace of divine dragon blood, and it was the most special one. This meridian had also been refined in Suyu's body, but he had never activated it. If he used the dragon transformation technique to activate the 10th real dragon spirit vein, the power would be considerable. Opening the scroll, Suyu quickly entered cultivation. Under the state of time acceleration, he could read 10 lines at a glance. Outside the mansion, Wucho, can we take action now? The cavern world of the demon clan is uncomfortable. A refined young man dressed in a scholar's green robe frowned slightly. The two people next to him were dressed in the same way, a man and a woman. They were exceptionally elegant. Wucho was the dark-faced elder under the young master of the book deity's cavern world. Because he was ugly and dark, he was named Wucho. Wucho sighed secretly. The three youths of the bamboo garden were the young master's capable assistants, and they would be glorious existences among the divine servants in the future. They were very arrogant, delicate, and pretentious. Along the way, Wucho had been tormented by this group of literate scholars. The earlier he could finish the task, the earlier he could be free. However, Wucho had come from a life of slaughter, and he had only just gained the young master's trust. He said in a low voice, "This is not appropriate. This person was clearly in the crane deity's family. Why did he suddenly come back? I think our existence must have been detected by him." The man and the woman, one painting and the other writing, did not even raise their heads. They said calmly, "Of course he knows of our existence, but so what? I'm afraid he didn't expect that the young master had sent us 4 peak mortal fairies to capture him alive, just to ensure that nothing goes wrong. This is obvious from the 4 followers that he brought out when he was careless." The woman's features were picturesque, and her expression was indifferent. "Wucho, I'm not used to staying here either. The air of the book deity's cavern world is more nourishing. The sooner we capture him, the sooner we can leave." Urged by the 3 youths of the bamboo garden, Wucho was helpless. However, what they said was not without reason. The other party might have been careless. "Let's do it." Wucho made up his mind. The 4 of them entered the mansion silently like phantoms. The 3 mortal fairies guarding the 4 corners of Su Yu's house did not notice the enemy's approach at all. Only Julong's face changed abruptly, and he yelled, "Who dares to cause trouble in the crane deity's cavern world?" Without saying a word, Julong punched in a certain direction of the void. In an instant, the void was shattered, and an ugly old man with a pitch-black face walked out of it easily. Julong was shocked. He recognized him immediately and said in a deep voice, "Wucho." The Great Eastern Alliance was huge, but there were only so many famous strong men. Among the peak mortal fairies, Wucho was a very famous strong man. Among all the peak mortal fairies, he ranked about 1,000, which was on par with Julong. Wucho was also secretly vigilant. He sensed that a peak mortal fairy came to protect Su Yu, but he did not expect it to be Julong, a famous strong man who was not inferior to him. The book deity's cavern world. Very well. You not only assassinated the 3rd miss, but also dared to cause trouble here. Although Julong was a vicious man, he was loyal to the crane deity's family. Wucho glanced around the house and chuckled. "Julong, we don't want to kill anyone on this trip. I hope you can do me a favor and let me take this man away." Julong smiled coldly. Even if the 3rd mist didn't give the order, he would never be indifferent to Wucho's capture under his nose. Puff! Without saying a word, Julong opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of poisonous fog, which surged around his body. Then, the poisonous fog condensed into a talisman, which crossed the void and branded on Wucho's body. How could Wucho dare to be careless? Buqie almost died in the hands of this man. He dodged with a teleportation and took out a shield as smooth as jade, which was forged by divine bones. The 2 of them immediately exchanging blows with each other, but neither of them could do anything to the other. After fighting for a while, Julong realized something was wrong. Wucho defended more than he attacked, and he was not in a hurry. He was in the crane deity's cavern world. If he did not end the battle quickly, once the reinforcements of the crane deity's world arrived, Wucho would not be able to escape. Wucho must be plotting something. All of a sudden, Julong's face changed, and he shouted sternly, "Be careful. The 4 of you. There are other strong men." However, before his voice died away, 3 angry roars came from all around the house, followed by a fierce fight. Then, the souls of 3 mortal fairies escaped one after another. One of them was extinguished by a writing brush in the middle of its escape and died completely. Julong was furious and wanted to turn around and rush over to help, But Wucho turned from offense to defense and pestered Yulong. Hee, why are you in such a hurry? Chapter 1145. Now, it would be a fluke to escape with Su Yu, let alone eliminate the hidden danger. Unfortunately, this fluke was destroyed by Wucho. He took out a book, and words appeared in the book, quickly sealing the poisonous dragon in a fixed space. Literary prison. Wucho laughed weirdly and kept instilling the mortal fairy's strength to entangle the poisonous dragon. The last strong man of the Crane deity's family was no match for the three great peak mortal fairies, and his body was shattered immediately. At this point, the three youths of the bamboo garden quickly swept away the obstacles and broke in. To their slight surprise, the movement outside did not make Su Yu panic in the house. Instead, he was still calmly practicing on the spot. Catch him first. Although the three felt something was wrong, they were very decisive. The woman with picturesque features waved her brush and drew a rope in the air. Then, the rope turned from a painting into a real object and wrapped itself around Su Yu in an instant. No! The woman found that what was trapped by the chain was only a mass of air. This is the bloodline of the Crane deity? As peak mortal fairies, they could naturally see Su Yu's trajectory and movements clearly. What else could it be, if not the bloodline of the Crane deity? Could Su Yu be the descendant of the Crane deity? If so, capturing a deity's descendant in public was too shocking. However, they dared not disobey the young master's order. Can you escape? The leading scholar opened a book and recited eloquently. The saint once said that nothing can be accomplished without rules and regulations, and nothing can be accomplished without rules and regulations. In an instant, an independent world appeared around Su Yu, sealing him in it. The verbal compliance law? Su Yu was a little surprised by such a strange, precious technique. Body of 9 dragons. Su Yu had only one way to deal with the seal, which was to break it with force and destroy it with divine decree. A giant palm appeared in the sky and swept down, shaking the seal of the verbal compliance law. Then, Su Yu's body of 9 dragons joined forces and bombarded a single point. With a bang, the seal was broken. The person who cast the technique was slightly surprised. Apparently, he did not expect that a mere stage 2 all creations could break his verbal compliance law. The saint once said that the law must be followed by the world, not by one's own desires, but by the law. Su Yu, quickly listen to my orders, the leader said. At that moment, Su Yu's eyes were filled with confusion. It was as if he was being controlled by someone, and his body was not under his control. However, it only lasted for a brief moment before it returned to normal. What a joke, unless it was a god, who could shake the divine 9-dragon cauldron. The leader's expression changed. He had used 20% of his power when he cast the technique for the second time, and yet he was unable to do anything to an all creations? The sage has said, the leader said with a solemn expression. Before he could finish his sentence, he was interrupted. The gods have said that those who touch the descendants of the gods will be killed without mercy. The expression of the leader, who was in the middle of casting a spell, suddenly changed drastically. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with shock as he looked behind Su Yu. Behind Su Yu, a seemingly weak woman walked out slowly. She had a beautiful appearance and was very quiet. At this moment, she was calmly looking at them. Seeing this person, the 3 youths of the bamboo garden were shocked. Sheng Yu and Xin? The 3 of them called out the same name at the same time. Who in the world didn't know the captain of the Sunluo law enforcing team? She was the most powerful descendant of the current deity. Her martial prowess was unparalleled. She had already advanced to the level of prospective deity. It was only a matter of time before she became a god. The leader's heart was thumping wildly. He said, "Greetings, prospective deity, Sheng." The 3 youths of the bamboo garden, who looked down on everything, had no right to be arrogant in front of Sheng Yu and Xin. They would be the glorious servants of the deity in the future, and Sheng Yu and Xin was the deity. So you told me that you have no respect for the gods. I didn't believe him at first, so I watched quietly from the side. I didn't expect you to really dare to capture the descendants of the deities. Sheng Yu and Xin looked weak, but what she said made the hearts of the three youths of the bamboo garden sink to the bottom. Touching the descendants of the deities was a capital crime. As for whether Su Yu was a descendant of the deities, the crane deity bloodline astronomical phenomenon just now had explained everything. In the name of the captain of the Sanluo law enforcing team, I announce the execution of the law, Sheng Yuanxin said. The three youths of the bamboo garden didn't even beg for mercy. They turned around and fled. It was useless to plead for mercy to the Sanluo law enforcing team, not to mention the captain, Sheng Yuanxin, who was known for being impartial. Sheng Yuanxin didn't chase after them. She just took out a long golden whip and lashed it 3 times in the air. 3 puffing sounds came from outside the house. Sheng Yuanxin withdrew the golden whip expressionlessly. Su Yu's heart trembled violently. He clearly sensed that the 3 peak mortal fairies had been erased from the world. Not even a trace of their scent was left. Even Su Yu couldn't resurrect them. Looking at Sheng Yuanxin's back, Su Yu was stunned. This was the power of a prospective deity. Even if they weren't real deities, they could kill their enemies from thousands of miles away without moving a step. Moreover, their opponents were peak mortal fairies. Su Yu was shocked beyond words when he witnessed a prospective deity in action for the first time. Sheng Yuanxin turned around. She still looked weak and delicate, but Su Yu didn't look down on her anymore. He said, "Thank you for your help, Captain Sheng." Sheng Yuanxin smiled softly. "You don't have to be afraid of me. If you didn't violate the rules of the deities, I can't do anything to you." Su Yu was embarrassed. He didn't just violate the rules of the deities. He was clearly unrepentant. He killed the law enforcers and kidnapped the descendants of the deities. Sheng Yuanxin seemed to have just realized that Su Yu had just accomplished a great deed not too long ago, and she looked a little embarrassed. "By the way, you also mentioned in your message that you remembered some important news about Qin Kuo and wanted to report it to me?" Sheng Yuanxin asked. Su Yu said, "Exactly. I suddenly remembered that before the relocation of the Jiuzhou continent, there was a rumor that someone found a law enforcer colluding with a peak mortal fairy demon of Jiuzhou." Sheng Yuanxin's face was calm. "What was the specific situation?" Su Yu said, "The specific situation is that the demon was being hunted by a powerful expert at Jiuzhou. When he was about to be killed, Qin Kuo suddenly appeared at this time and insisted on bringing the demon back for investigation. The powerful expert didn't allow it, so Qin Kuo attacked him. The creatures of Jiuzhou are spreading rumors that the law enforcers are protecting the demon." Sheng Yuanxin listened and started to ponder on the spot. As the captain of the Sanluo law enforcers, she was very sensitive and could see that something was wrong. Firstly, the timing of Qin Kuo's appearance was too coincidental. Secondly, there was something wrong with Qin Kuo's way of handling things. Unless it was a specific demon that needed to be kept alive, he would rarely capture him alive. He would usually kill him on the spot. He insisted on not capturing him alive and stopped the powerful experts of Jiuzhou from killing him. There must be something wrong with this. "Thank you. This is very important news. Not only can we find out the cause of Qin Kuo's death, but we can also find out something else," Sheng Yuanxin said to Su Yu. As she spoke, she took out another jade pendant. This time, it was not a communication jade pendant, but a summoning jade pendant. "You are now an important witness of this case, and your life is very precious. If someone is plotting against you, crush the jade pendant, and I will appear immediately." Sheng Yuanxin glanced at Julong, who had escaped, and said calmly, "The people of the book deity were suspected of colluding with the demon race. Now, they had sent so many experts to capture Su Yu, who knew the truth. Even the people of the book deity wouldn't believe it if they said that they weren't trying to silence him. Thank you." After sending Sheng Yuanxin off, Su Yu looked at the summoning jade pendant in his palm. Su Yu smiled joyfully. He had really made a killing this time. He had gained 2 great benefits. Firstly, he had led Sheng Yuanxin to the mastermind of the world of the book deity. "Weren't you plotting against me? Now I'll give you a headache." Secondly, this summoning jade pendant was a life-saving item. In this world, apart from the deities, how many people could be enemies with Sheng Yuanxin? However, after seeing Sheng Yuanxin's hidden strength under her delicate appearance, Su Yu didn't intend to use her casually. She was delicate, but that didn't mean she was stupid. At the same time, Suyu had seen the strength of a prospective deity for the first time. He had to reconsider the deity destruction plan. If the prospective deities were so terrifying, what about the deities? As he pondered, Suyu entered the soul dimension. He didn't know he didn't see it, but he was shocked when he saw it. Whose cow came to my house? Suyu cried out involuntarily. In the soul dimension, an incomparably huge creature occupied the soul dimension. It was full of blood and emitted bursts of evil energy. You are the cow. Your whole family are cows. I am a dog. No, an evil god. Evil god. Suyu smiled. It seems you have recovered well. The evil god laughed. It's all because of you, kid. You fed 4 mortal fairy souls in a row. TSK. More than all the souls before. Evil god, I have something to ask you. Suyu said seriously, if I want to kill a god, and I have a way to completely destroy his celestial energy sphere, is it possible for me to succeed? The evil god smiled and said, your ideas are really imaginative. I'm not thinking, I'm already doing it, Suyu said seriously. The evil god's smile froze on his face, and he suddenly became vigilant. You don't want to kill me, do you? Suyu laughed. The soul dimension is useless to you. Now you are the one who won't leave me, right? As early as when he fought with the Central Prefecture's king, Suyu noticed that the evil god could penetrate the soul dimension on his own and inject the power of his bloodline into Suyu's body. He knew that the soul dimension could no longer trap the evil god, and he could move freely a long time ago. Hearing this, the evil god was embarrassed. Well, my doghouse is not easily moved. If I leave, it will be transformed into a tourist attraction by you, the former residence of an evil god. That will not be good. Knowing that Suyu was not hostile, the evil god said, destroying the celestial energy sphere is indeed the only way to destroy a god, but that is only for a god. If a god destroys the celestial energy sphere of another god, it means that the god is going to be destroyed. But if it is not a god, it is a suicide mission. Kid, no matter what you're doing now, stop immediately, turn around, and run. Suyu was surprised. Chapter 1146. Suyu thought about it and said, very strong. Wrong. Super strong. And that's because his current divine soul is only 1,000th of what it was when he was alive. Can you deal with a complete divine soul? I'm afraid he can still kill you 10,000 times with just a thought. If you're a deity, it's easy to destroy the divine soul after destroying the godly spirit, but you're immortal, don't court death. Run away quickly. Suyu was stern and said, I've learned a lot. Leaving the soul dimension, the evil god's anxious voice came from behind. Brat, don't take things too hard. Mr. Su, Dulong said awkwardly. If it wasn't for Sheng Yuanshin's sudden appearance, killing the 3 youths of the bamboo garden and scaring Wucho away, the consequences would be unimaginable. Suyu opened his eyes and said indifferently, they won't dare to cause trouble for a while. Secret, let's go back to the crane deity's family. Seeing he Xianran again, she asked concernedly, how is it? The hidden danger has been eliminated temporarily. It shouldn't affect our plan. Suyu looked at he Xianran and pondered for a long time, then said, are you sure you can destroy the crane deity's godly spirit? Yes, he Xianran said affirmatively. Father's godly spirit has reached a critical point. It's much more serious than what the people expected. One time, I accidentally discovered that he had secretly executed all of his god servants. Only then did I know that his source of God was about to collapse. Divine servants were loyal servants who guarded the deity's descendants from the peak mortal fairy period. They were the deity's most trusted people, and they knew the deity's secrets the most. There was a divine servant who foresaw that something was amiss, so he made a backup plan in advance. He recorded the news of the crane deity's godly spirit's imminent collapse into 10 pieces of communication jade pendants and hid them in different places. If the crane deity wanted to talk about him, he could threaten him with it. Unexpectedly, the crane deity killed all the divine servants in one night, and the 10 pieces of communication jade pendants were all found by the crane deity with his magical power and then destroyed. But the crane deity didn't expect that the divine servant prepared not 10 pieces, but 11. The divine servant erased the last piece of memory from his mind, so the crane deity wouldn't know there was still a piece of information left in this world, even if he searched his soul. Su Yu's heart shook, and he asked, "Did you get the communication jade pendant?" Xianran said proudly, "That's right. That divine servant has been bribed by me for a long time. So before the great calamity befell him, he also prepared a communication jade pendant and gave it to me, hoping that I can help him at the critical moment." Unfortunately, Xianran didn't help that divine servant. In the past, the time was not ripe. Now that I have your help, I will definitely succeed, Crane Fairy said. Su Yu stared at Xianran. She had never mentioned the condition of the crane deity's divine soul, whether it was strong or weak. Being stared at by Su Yu, Xianran evaded his gaze a little. She said, "Don't worry this time. The crane deity will surely be killed. Then, according to the promise, I will inherit the position of the head of the crane deity's family. Relying on the divine inheritance left by my father, it will be enough for me to become a deity in a short time. Then I will give you what you want, and let your status in the crane deity's family cave be second only to mine. In this way, whoever in the entire Great Eastern Alliance who wants to lay a finger on you will have to consider the remaining resources of the crane deity's family first. As a deity's family, before they completely declined, no one would dare to provoke them." She still spoke ambiguously, not mentioning the divine soul at all. Su Yu nodded. "All right, that's it. Let's start the plan." If the crane deity wasn't killed, not only would Su Yu not be able to gain a foothold, but even his life wouldn't be guaranteed. This was decided when he first kidnapped Xianran. The crane deity was heartless, and his desire to kill Su Yu was especially strong. If he didn't die, Su Yu couldn't survive. In order to survive, in order to gain a foothold, in order to protect Juzhou, Su Yu had no choice but to put all his eggs in one basket and choose to destroy the deity. 2 days later, Xianran's injuries worsened. Su Yu's vitality could only prolong her life, but it couldn't heal her injuries. 5 days later, Xianran was dying. The crane deity showed up to investigate. His eyes were full of sorrow, but he still didn't plan to settle the score with the Jing deity. Although the people of the crane deity's family didn't say anything, all of them felt vexed. A dignified deity's daughter was assassinated, but the deity didn't dare to seek revenge. It wasn't that the crane deity didn't dare, but he didn't want to. The carnival of all gods was just around the corner. Without the Jing deity's help, the crane deity couldn't get the replenishment of his godly spirit and would die soon. So he had to endure it. Although the news that Xianran was poisoned by the extreme frigid water was concealed by the crane deity's family, the Great Eastern Alliance was full of deities. What would be hidden from them? The Jing deity's mood turned grave when he heard the news. The extreme frigid water certainly wasn't done by him, nor was it done by his people. But the crane deity didn't ask for help for a long time. The Jing deity couldn't help but ponder. Could it be that the crane deity thought it was done by him, so he didn't consider asking for help at all? The Jing deity felt it was more and more possible. If the crane deity asked for help from him, it was enough to show that the crane deity still trusted him. But now that he didn't ask for help, it would be troublesome. At the thought of that, the Jing deity was a little angry. He knew that the crane deity had also raised his vigilance against him. The carnival of all gods was just around the corner. He really didn't want a small misunderstanding to cause a qualitative change in their relationship and delay the carnival of all gods. I have no choice but to take the initiative to lend a helping hand and resolve the misunderstanding. The Jing deity sighed. He took out a bit of the extreme frigid water, handed it to his divine servant, and sent it to the crane deity's family. After a pause, the Jing deity instructed again, "This must be done openly, and let the world know that the relationship between me and the crane deity remains the same." When the crane deity learned that the Jing deity had personally sent the extreme frigid water, and in such a big way, as if he was afraid that others wouldn't know that the Jing deity had lent a helping hand, the crane deity was shocked. Could it be that he had misunderstood the crane deity? Although he didn't understand the reason behind it, the crane deity agreed to it gladly. Not only could he save his daughter, but he could also ease the conflict between him and the Jing deity. Why not? After the Jing deity's divine servant arrived, the news was thoroughly spread among the people. The rascal had plotted against He Xianran and framed the Jing deity. The Jing deity was open and above board and gave the antidote. The happy event of a harmonious relationship between the deities had spread like wildfire among the people. Both parties were delighted, until He Xianran drank the antidote. Not only did the extreme frigid water not dispel, but it became even worse. Although Su Yu tried his best to save her and operated his vitality to sustain her breath, the extreme frigid water contained in the antidote was even more dreadful. The extreme frigid water came from the Jing deity's bloodline, and no amount of vitality could save her. At last, He Xianran persevered for half a day and passed away. The crane deity was furious. After examining He Xianran's body, his face became even more gloomy. He Xianran's body actually contained the Jing deity's unique extreme frigid water. Apart from the Jing deity himself, only his descendants who had inherited the Jing deity's bloodline could produce this divine water. However, his descendants had never set foot in the crane deity's cavern world. So where did the extreme frigid water in their bloodline come from? Apart from the antidote that was delivered, there was no other solution. The crane deity finally flew into a rage. He thought he had misunderstood the Jing deity, but it turned out that the Jing deity had killed his daughter in public and deliberately let the whole world know. Now, even if the crane deity wanted to maintain the superficial relationship between the two, it became impossible. The Jing deity had shed all pretense of cordiality and killed his daughter in public. How could they still cooperate? Their relationship, with He Xianran's jaw-dropping death, had come to an end. Jing deity, the crane deity flew into a rage. He had no choice but to fly into a rage. In front of the whole world, if he didn't react in the slightest, not to mention the damage to his honor, even the slightly smarter deities would discover the crane deity's weak nature. Which one of those sanctimonious gods wasn't someone who would eat people up without spitting out the bones? Once they found out, the crane deity would be in trouble sooner or later. It was not easy to establish a foothold in the Great Eastern Alliance. How could the crane deity not have offended anyone? Once the news got out, he would immediately suffer ruthless retaliation. An invisible force of heaven and earth had pushed him to the teeth of the storm. He had no choice but to retaliate, and he had to retaliate ruthlessly so that he could show his determination to not fear the Jing deity. Swoosh! The crane deity left angrily in front of He Xianran's body. Half a day later, the crane deity returned, covered in blood, holding a large head in his hand. That was the Jing deity's second son. The Jing deity had a total of 2 sons. One was killed by He Xianran, and there were 2 left. Now the crane deity had killed another one, and there was only 1 left. The crane deity, of course, deliberately announced this news to the world to let people know that the crane deity was not afraid of the Jing deity. Suddenly, the whole Great Eastern Alliance was in an uproar. The Jing deity killed the crane deity's daughter in public, and the crane deity killed the Jing deity's son in retaliation. Many deities in the whole continent were watching the two quietly. Smack! In the Jing deity's family, the Jing deity flew into a rage. Crane deity, you've gone too far. Think about the price he had paid for forbearance for the sake of great things. Jingbai was obviously killed by the crane deity's family. But not only did he pretend to know nothing about it, in order to maintain the relationship between the two, he even saved He Xianran. In the end, the crane deity used some mysterious means and actually injected a trace of his bloodline power into He Xianran's body and framed the Jing deity. It was no wonder that the Jing deity thought so. To imitate the bloodline power, the extreme, frigid water, who could do it except the deities? Therefore, he thought, could it be that the crane deity had something to rely on and deliberately killed his own daughter and shed all pretenses of cordiality so that he could settle the score with him? Thinking of this, The Jing deity suddenly felt that it was also the crane deity's arrangement that he Xianran was poisoned by the extreme frigid water in the beginning. Considering the development of the incident, the Jing deity was even more certain that this was the crane deity's plot. The crane deity must be trying to deal with him. After all, once the conspiracy between them was spread out, it would be a great catastrophe. The crane deity wanted to silence him. He thought so because the Jing deity also wanted to silence the crane deity, and after the carnival of all gods, he would find a way to kill the crane deity. Not long after, the Jing deity received a piece of news. Sheng Yuanxin appeared in the crane deity's family. In fact, Sheng Yuanxin only received Su Yu's message, and the news of Qinqua's death. She came to look for Su Yu. But Su Yu was in the crane deity's family. Of course, she could only enter the crane deity's family. Chapter 1147. Crane deity, you really found a backer, and you want to kill me. The Jing deity was enraged. Who was Sheng Yuanxin? She might not be a prospective deity, but Sheng Yuanxin's mother. The Sheng deity was the most powerful deity among the 100 deities in the Great Eastern Alliance. She could make the Great Eastern Alliance tremble with a stomp of her foot. The Sheng deity would never cooperate with a low-ranking deity like the crane deity. However, her daughter, Sheng Yuanxin, a prospective deity, was highly possible. After all, if the plan was successful, the prospective deity could gain amazing benefits in the carnival of all gods and stabilize his godly spirit in advance. Thinking that the crane deity had found such a terrifying backer, the Jing deity was shocked and angry and hesitated. He really did not want to be an enemy of the Sheng deity. However, the crane deity's arrogance made him unable to swallow his anger. The crane deity's daughter killed his son. For the sake of the big plan, he tolerated it. The enemy who killed his son was dying. For the sake of the big plan, he was ashamed of his son's spirit in heaven and helped the enemy. However, the crane deity was not grateful, but framed him and used it as an excuse to kill another of his sons. He wanted to kick him out of the big plan. Not only did he kick him out, but he also provoked him on purpose and wanted to start a war and kill him. The Jing deity was filled with grief and indignation. He felt that he had been extremely benevolent to the crane deity's family, but the crane deity was too hateful. Crane deity, you piece of sh*t. At this moment, the divine servant who returned from the crane deity's family came to report. Jing deity, someone asked me to pass this communication jade pendant to you. The divine servant was uneasy. The Jing deity was in a rage, and he still had the leisure to look at the communication jade pendant. Even if it was the crane deity's message, he didn't want to hear it. However, he still asked casually, "Who is it?" "Su Yu." The Jing deity raised his eyebrows. He had almost forgotten about this brat. He thought the crane deity had already killed him, and he didn't expect him to still be alive. He didn't have any feelings for Su Yu, nor did he like him. Su Yu had plotted against the deity openly, which made him feel uncomfortable. "How dare you bring a mere mortal's jade pendant in front of me? Get lost." How could the Jing deity talk to an ant like Su Yu? The divine servant clenched his teeth and said, "Su Yu said that if the Jing deity is unwilling to accept it, he should tell the Jing deity that he can help you out of your predicament." The Jing deity sneered. How could a mere mortal resolve the matter between the gods? However, as she thought about how Su Yu was skilled in scheming, even though she was disdainful, she still took the jade communication pendant in her palm and activated it with a cold smile. This jade pendant was an instant communication jade pendant that could communicate through space. He was sneering when his face suddenly stiffened. He heard a soft and weak voice coming from the other side. "I didn't expect you to really be able to contact the Jing deity." "Oh, crane deity, I'm Sheng Yuanxin. I have something to discuss with you. The journey is long, so I can only communicate with the deities in this way." In a secret chamber of the crane deity's family, Sheng Yuanxin was a little surprised. Su Yu informed her that there was news of a case, but it turned out to be related to Jing Bai. Because Jing Bai had also been to Jiuzhou, and Jing Bai was the Jing deity's son, the Jing deity might know something. Unfortunately, Sheng Yuanxin couldn't contact the Jing deity directly. After all, she was just a prospective deity, and there was still a long way to go before the deities. She couldn't meet the Jing deity whenever she wanted to. Suyu volunteered to contact the Jing deity. As a result, she didn't know what he said to the divine servant of the Jing deity, who was about to go back to report, and he really brought the jade communication pendant to the Jing deity. Sheng Yuanxin heard from Yang Tai many times that Su Yu was an extremely intelligent and meticulous person. She didn't believe it at first, but now she believed it a little. The Jing deity was shocked when he heard it was Sheng Yuanxin. Wasn't Sheng Yuanxin conspiring with the crane deity? Why did she suddenly come to me? He stopped sneering and said gently, Su Yu is a junior that I think highly of, and I allowed him to contact me at any time. The divine servant below rolled his eyes when he heard that. He just called Su Yu an ant. Oh, I see. Sheng Yuanxin rolled her eyes at Su Yu secretly. No wonder he could communicate with the deities. With such a relationship, what's so difficult about it? It seemed like Yang Tai's evaluation still had to be questioned. Niece Yuanxin, what's the matter? The Jing deity was very polite. Sheng Yuanxin said, I want to ask Jing deity if you know anything about Jing Bai's trip to Jiuzhou. About this? The Jing deity was disappointed. He had a faint hope that Sheng Yuanxin would turn around and give up on the crane deity and cooperate with him for the carnival of all gods. Oh, Jing Bai was carrying out a mission in that area and was coincidentally summoned by He Xianran. As for what I know, I don't. The Jing deity said. How could he know what happened at that time? He didn't even know how his son was killed. But Su Yu's voice came from the communication. Crane deity, this is a serious matter, and it may involve several high-ranking deities. Sheng Yuanxin was secretly shocked. When she investigated Qin Kuo's case, she did find several high-ranking deities involved in the case. Qin Kuo shielded the demon race, and there was a deity's instruction. How did Su Yu know? Sheng Yuanxin looked at Su Yu in surprise. What Yang Tai said was true. This man was extremely smart. Without investigation, he deduced that high-ranking deities were involved. But this sentence was like thunder in the Jing deity's ears. Wait, high-ranking deities? How can there be any high-ranking deities whose son is dead? The only thing is that the Sheng deity also participated in the carnival of all gods. Is Sheng Yuanxin hinting at me? The Jing deity's mind became active. Niece Yuanxin, what are you talking about? I don't quite understand, the Jing deity said tentatively. Sheng Yuanxin heard the Jing deity vaguely knew something from his tone. She said sternly, Jing deity, you really know the inside story? This is a serious matter, and I hope Jing deity won't tell anyone about my conversation with you today until the truth comes to light. Otherwise, it will be very dangerous for both you and me. The Jing deity was shocked. It was really the carnival of all gods. Wasn't he the one who knew the inside story? He was a little excited, but he pretended to be calm. Niece Yuanxin, you mean, Sheng Yuanxin said seriously, about this matter, my mother also knows about it. From now on, I hope Jing deity can cooperate with me. With my mother's protection, you can rest assured and cooperate with me. What? The Jing deity's heart was pounding. Sure enough, the Sheng deity was involved in this matter. Moreover, the Sheng deity was partial to the Jing deity and hoped that he would cooperate with her daughter. Niece Yuanxin, rest assured, this matter will be known by the heavens, the earth, you, me, and Su Yu. Apart from this, I will not say a word about it. The Jing deity was extremely excited. Sheng Yuanxin nodded. How serious was it to cover up the demon race? The deities involved were also very powerful. If they knew in advance that a group of people was investigating them, she was afraid that it would be very dangerous. Okay, please don't make it public for the time being. When it is needed, please help me. My mother will protect you, Sheng Yuanxin said. In the future, she would need witnesses to expose those deities. The Jing deity's fearlessness really touched Sheng Yuanxin. She secretly thought that the Jing deity was said to be cold and heartless. It turned out that he was such a selfless person. The Jing deity laughed. Rest assured, when the time comes, I will definitely lend niece Yuanxin a helping hand. After hesitating for a moment, The Jing deity's eyes revealed a hint of ruthlessness. Then, what if someone obstructs us and wants to expose this matter and endanger our safety? Xing Yuanxin was shocked. She said, "Kill without mercy. This matter is very serious. It must not be leaked." Upon hearing this, the Jing deity was greatly relieved. The Sheng deity had given up on the crane deity. "That's all for now. Please destroy the communication jade pendant immediately to prevent others from knowing about it," Sheng Yuanxin said at last. Then, she crushed the communication jade pendant in her hand with a solemn look. The Jing deity put down the communication jade pendant and destroyed it immediately. He praised with a smile, "As expected of the Sheng deity's daughter, you are very quick-witted." The divine servant was dumbfounded. What did Su Yu give the Jing deity that made the Jing deity wanted to eat people just now become like this? Ha ha! The Jing deity stood up and laughed heartily. "Crane deity, oh, crane deity, I bet you didn't even dream that the Sheng deity chose me. And you, hee, I have tolerated you for a long time." The divine servant's face changed slightly. "Jing deity, what are you going to do?" The Jing deity sneered. "To avenge my son, of course. Jing Bai is a nobody, but my second son was killed by the crane deity and announced to the world. If I don't avenge him, won't I become a laughing stock?" Moreover, the Sheng deity had instructed him to eliminate the hidden danger, the crane deity, to prevent the news from leaking. What else did he have to fear? With a thought, the Jing deity appeared at the border of the two regions. He glanced at the army in the Jing deity's cavern world who was training. He thought to himself, this Su Yu is quite good at handling affairs. Listen to my command. The crane deity killed the descendants of our deities. All troops, follow me into the crane deity's cavern world to seek justice. In the crane deity's world, the crane deity was on tenterhooks. He killed the Jing deity's second son, which deterred some deities who had ulterior motives. But what about the Jing deity? He really didn't want to confront the Jing deity head-on. Therefore, he only killed his son, not the Jing deity. I hope the Jing deity knows when to advance and when to retreat. Otherwise, I will have to fight. The crane deity was pacing when an urgent message from the border arrived. The Jing deity led the army and entered the territory. Crack! The crane deity smashed the stone table in front of him. Divine light flickered, and he was extremely furious. As expected, he arranged the army at the border just for this day. The crane deity laughed miserably. "Jing deity, oh Jing deity, why are you treating me like this?" At first, the crane deity secretly hurt He Xianran to infuriate him. For the sake of the big plan, the crane deity endured it. Even though he felt sorry for his daughter, he gritted his teeth and endured it. Then, he murdered her openly in front of the whole world, forcing him to resist. He had to kill the Jing deity's son to take revenge. In the end, the Jing deity used this as an excuse to attack the crane deity's cavern world. "Jing deity, oh Jing deity, I can even sacrifice my daughter, but you have to force me to this point. Are you trying to kill me?" The crane deity showed a ferocious and hateful expression and bellowed, "Pass down my order, the soldiers in the crane deity's cavern world. Follow me to fight." Under everyone's gaze, an all-out war broke out in the two great deities' cavern worlds as expected. The Jing deity came prepared, the crane deity fought in haste, and the army retreated step by step. Within 2 months, the Jing deity was about to attack the crane deity's family. For a moment, everyone in the crane deity's family felt insecure and perturbed. Only Su Yu, the instigator of all this, was practicing the dragon form technique leisurely. Chapter 1148. Outside the secret chamber, Julong stood up and said, "Mr. Su, the battlefield is dangerous. Let me keep you safe." Su Yu nodded. Julong followed behind Su Yu. A strange light flashed in the depths of his eyes. The crane deity stood in the sky, his eyes full of grief and indignation. The Jing deity was ruthless and merciless. Now, the two armies were facing each other outside the crane deity's family, and the crane deity had no way out. Looking at the leisurely Jing deity from afar, the crane deity said with grief and indignation, "Jing deity, do you really want to be so cruel?" The Jing deity sneered. I not learning from you? Since you're the third, why don't I be the 15th? The Jing deity mistakenly thought that the crane deity was using the power of the saint deity to kill him, but now he was using the power of the saint deity to kill him. But the crane deity thought that he had killed the Jing deity's son, and the Jing deity was seeking revenge because of that. The crane deity was even more furious when he mentioned it. It was clearly an overt plot, but the villain was the one who brought it up first. At this point, the crane deity had no more hope. Jing deity, you will pay the price for killing me. The Jing deity was a little hesitant. As a fellow deity, it was not a little difficult to kill him. Suddenly, the Jing deity caught a glimpse of Su Yu, who was above the crane deity's family, and the other party cast a cold glance at him. The Jing deity glanced around and did not see Sheng Yuanxin. He thought to himself, could Su Yu be sent by Sheng Yuanxin to supervise? After all, Sheng Yuanxin had allied with the Jing deity in front of Su Yu. Without hesitation, the Jing deity sneered. How long do you think you can jump around? With the saint deity's will, even if the Jing deity did not attack, other deities would kill him. Come on then, the crane deity yelled. He had no way out, and could only clench his teeth and charge forward. The Jing deity dared not be careless, and used all his strength. The divine power emitted by the two deities shook the two cavern worlds, as if they were on the verge of collapse. The heaven and earth changed colors, as if the world was about to shatter. The infinite divine power suppressed the creatures of the two worlds. The apocalyptic sense of panic surged in everyone's heart. However, this feeling only lasted for a while, and a tragic cry was heard, and the entire crane deity's cavern world was raining golden blood. That was the crane deity's blood. The crane deity perished, his godly position crumbled, and his body transformed into a rain of blood that descended upon the crane deity's cavern world. The whole world was filled with great sorrow, and the light of the world suddenly dimmed. This was the sign of a cavern world beginning to decline. In the sky, the Jing deity's figure appeared, and there was a hint of surprise on his face. He had expected that he would have a great battle with the crane deity, but the reality was that the crane deity couldn't even withstand a single blow from him, and more than half of his divine body was directly shattered. Looking at the rain of God's blood falling from the sky, the Jing deity said in a daze, "The divinity is so weak? Wasn't the crane deity too weak when he was alive?" Su Yu looked at the rain of divine blood. He didn't even have the mood to collect the divine blood. The divine blood was too weak. As expected, the crane deity was already a spent force. Next, it was up to He Xianran. The crane deity's spirit carried a ball of God source and fled back to the forbidden area of the crane deity's family, the crane deity's secret cultivation chamber. The secret chamber was filled with multicolored divine objects. Those were collected by the crane deity over the years and were used to replenish his God source. After replenishing some divine objects, the crane deity's God source strengthened a little and was barely preserved. As long as he recuperated and strengthened his God source, he could condense a divine body again. Jing deity, I want you to die a horrible death. The crane deity took a deep breath, and his whole body trembled. All of a sudden, the crane deity's face changed. The God source in his arms became unstable rapidly, and gradually turned from golden to pitch black, and finally exploded with a bang. His last trace of God source was destroyed. Losing the God source was equivalent to losing the position of a deity, and he could never become a deity again. Who is it? The crane deity went berserk, and his divine soul's face was hideous, as if it was about to devour someone. He looked at the divine objects that he had eaten abruptly, and among them was half of a divine herb. Wisps of white scent remained on the divine herb, which was odorless and tasteless, and could hardly be detected even if he sensed it carefully. Moreover, he was in a panic just now, and had only taken a cursory glance. The god-destroying poison of the poison deity? The crane deity's face was as gloomy as water. Apart from the divine servants, nobody knew the way to open his secret chamber, not even the people closest to him. However, the divine servants were killed by him. Who else knew the way to enter the secret chamber? With a creak, the secret chamber was opened from the outside, and a familiar figure walked in. Father, what does the god-destroying poison taste? The dead Xianran appeared in front of Suyu. The crane deity's face changed dramatically. No, impossible. How did you come back to life? A deity's descendant couldn't sign a deity's contract. Death was death, and there was no possibility of resurrection. Father, you're very disappointed, aren't you? Xianran sneered. The crane deity said, Xianran, did you put this poison? Of course, you've been keeping an eye on the people, and you'll know immediately if anyone approaches the secret chamber. However, I'm already dead, and you didn't pay attention to me, so I could enter your secret chamber and leave the poison on your most precious divine object. This was the reason why Xianran had to die once, not only to ignite the conflict between the two deities, but also to avoid the crane deity's arrow. The crane deity was a mean and heartless person and never trusted his own people. Everyone was under his surveillance, including his most beloved daughter, Xianran. The crane deity's face revealed a stern expression. I've been so good to you, and you good? You're only good to yourself, aren't you? You can give up anything for the godly spirit. Xianran interrupted him mercilessly and took out a black palm-sized furnace with a flip of her palm and said with a cold smile, Father, I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. The crane deity's face changed dramatically when he saw the jade bottle. The demon clan's treasure, the soul refining furnace? You want to refine my divine soul into a tonic to help you become a deity? The soul refining furnace was an extremely rare treasure of the demon clan. It could refine the souls of all living creatures in the world and refine them into precious soul liquid. The higher the level of the soul, the more powerful the soul liquid. After swallowing it, one could obtain everything that the soul had when it was alive, including its lifetime comprehension. Especially if they had the same bloodline, the effect of the soul liquid would be more powerful. If Xianran swallowed the divine liquid refined by his divine soul, she would inherit his divine path. As long as there were no accidents along the way, becoming a deity was only a matter of time. In order to get your divine soul, I use Suyu to find ways to destroy your body. I'm afraid he still doesn't know the magical effect of the divine soul, does he? Xianran licked her lips. The crane deity smiled sadly. Suyu, he had long felt that there was a mastermind behind everything, but he didn't expect it to be Suyu. So, the battle between me and the Jing deity was all planned by him? Xianran nodded. Yes, it was him. Speaking of which, I really admire him. Who would have thought that the plan with less than a 10% success rate could really succeed according to his calculations step by step? He is really a terrible person. Suyu. The crane deity was full of remorse. He had long felt that this person was a threat and had tried to kill him several times, but it was delayed every time. He didn't expect that he would end up in this state because of him. Suyu. The crane deity hated him to the core. But he hated his daughter even more. After all, without Xianran's betrayal, how could an outsider like Suyu plan the overall situation? Besides, it was his daughter who killed him in the end. Father, the last thing you should have done was to make an enemy of Suyu. Xianran sighed and opened the soul refining furnace. The crane deity wanted to avoid it, but the soul refining furnace was specially prepared for souls. The crane deity had nowhere to run and was sucked into the furnace. In despair, the crane deity roared ferociously. My good daughter, you won't have a good ending either. Suyu is such a dangerous person. You can't control him. I know. Xianran stroked the hair near her ears and revealed a soul-stirring, cold smile. So, I've killed him, and Julong, who followed him and protected him, is already here with his dead body. Bang! However, right at this moment, the door of the secret chamber was opened, and a dead body was thrown in. Who else could it be but Julong? Julong? He Shinran's beautiful face changed. Impossible. How could Su Yu kill Julong? Besides, apart from Julong, I also arranged for the strong men of the family to receive him. Even if Julong couldn't be killed, there would be other strong men to kill him. Why didn't they send a message to us when Julong was dead? Thump, thump. Two slightly heavy and clumsy footsteps were heard, along with a cold sneer. Because it's the young master of the crane deity's family who ordered them. How dare they disobey the young master's order? There were only 2 young masters of the crane deity's family. He Jinghong was still imprisoned. Under He Shinran's special care, his cultivation was destroyed, and he was reduced to a useless person. The remaining one who could kill Julong and command the crane deity's family was only He Rushu. He Rushu, the most useless and despised second young master of the crane deity's family. He Xianran looked incredulous. Why did you do that? Ha, of course, I asked him to do that. A light laugh came from outside the house. He Shinran's delicate body trembled violently, and her eyes were full of panic, as if the initiator of her plot had been seen through. You already knew that I sent Julong to kill you? Of course I knew. He could even kill his father, let alone an outsider like me. I don't think Miss Xianran is a soft-hearted person, Su Yu said lightly. He Xianran stared at Julong's dead body. I don't believe it. Who could kill Julong? Even my eldest brother is much weaker than him. Could it be that you have colluded with others? Why do you need to collude with others? Your second brother could easily kill Julong, couldn't he? Su Yu showed a pitiful smile. What? Second brother? He Xianran looked incredulous. Impossible, his strength is weaker than mine. The next moment, He Shinran's voice stopped abruptly, because He Rushu released the aura of the peak mortal fairy. Chapter 1149. In fact, the crane deity had another son with excellent qualifications. Unfortunately, he died one day outside, and the reason was still unknown. Only He Rushu knew it was done by his elder brother and sister. Because of this, the crane deity knew it was them, but he did not investigate further, and it became an unsolved case. Therefore, He Rushu endured, pretended to be stupid, and hid his cultivation all the time just to save his life. Until Su Yu appeared and gave him this opportunity to show himself. He Xianran was shocked. It turned out that the trash of the crane deity's family was the most outstanding person. She fixed her eyes on Su Yu. You knew my second brother hid a very strong cultivation? Su Yu nodded his head. Yes, when he passed me the note that day, I knew it. He didn't attract the attention of the 4 peak mortal fairy guards. Then, he passed a note to me quietly. I knew your second brother was a hidden strong man in the world. I am afraid there are few peak mortal fairies who can compete with him. Unfortunately, he is the most worthy successor of the crane deity's family. He Xianran failed to plot against Su Yu, and was plotted against by Su Yu. Su Yu would not let her go. He Xianran's eyes flashed, and she said, Second brother, the fight for the position of God is between you and me. Why do you want to help Su Yu? Kill him, and only you and I will be left. However, He Rushu did not move, but just sneered. It is very simple. Su Yu has made a plan with me to help me become the new generation of crane deity. That is why I am helping him. What a joke. What qualification does he have to help you become the crane deity? He Xianran sneered. Su Yu did not speak, but released the breath in the 9 jade spiritual pearl. A trace of deity's breath suddenly came, and at the same time, the elegant voice of a reserved goddess came. I guarantee it. How about it? He Xianran felt the breath and gasped. Deity, you have a deity by your side. No wonder He Rushu believed him. With a living deity, anything was possible. The crane deity's family will fall sooner or later without a deity, but with Su Yu and that deity guarding, I believe the rascals will not dare to disturb. Give me enough time. How difficult will it be to become a god? He Rushu was very confident. He Xianran was not willing to give up and continued to sow discord. You are silly. In that case, wouldn't you become a puppet under Su Yu's control? There's no guarantee that he won't go back on his word and kill you. He Rushu said indifferently. So what if it's a puppet? He needs to attach himself to the crane deity's family, and I need to rely on his strength to slowly become a deity. Even if I become a deity, I won't be able to pose a threat to him. It's beneficial for both sides to cooperate, and there's no contradiction or conflict. In just a few words, he had clearly stated the interests of both parties. His mind was exceptionally intelligent. Looking at his sister in front of him, Hirushu extended a finger and tapped the space between her brows. He then said calmly, "What you said to our father wasn't wrong. You shouldn't make Suyu your enemy. Originally, the person he wanted to support was you, but your ambition was too great, so he gave me a chance. Rest in peace, sister. Don't try to be smart in your next life." Pucci, a wisp of mortal fairy strength pierced through Hishinran's body and soul, killing her instantly. Hirushu grabbed the soul-refining furnace and said with a complicated expression, "Father, don't you have anything to say? You've seen the situation outside, haven't you?" In the soul-refining furnace, the crane deity's bitter laughter came after a long time. "What are you talking about? The daughter I loved the most betrayed me, and the son I despised the most is so outstanding. I was blind, what else can I say? Now the things that come to this. Nobody would let go of the crane deity. Rushu, activate the soul-refining furnace. I'll give you everything I have. I hope you can become a deity, and the crane deity's family is in your hands." A dying man's words were kind. However, Hirushu shook his head. "The inherited deity's position is too weak. Even if I become a deity, my strength will be far beyond that of a deity who became a deity independently. You are the weakest among the 100 deities. If I inherit your position, my strength will only be weaker, and that's not what I want. I'll find my own divine path." The crane deity was surprised. He had never thought that his son, whom he had never loved, would be so ambitious to become a deity independently. Among the 100 deities today, how many of them became deities independently? Most of them inherited the deity's position from their ancestors. Haha, my son is so ambitious. I have no regrets even if I die. The crane deity heaved a sigh of relief. After a moment of silence, the crane deity looked at Suyu and said, "Can you really assist my son wholeheartedly? Won't you have ulterior motives?" He had fallen from the deity's position, and the crane deity's family was in danger. Only Suyu and the deity behind him could protect the crane deity's family. Now, he was the one asking Suyu for help. "What good will it do me if I have ulterior motives? Can I, a human, take over the crane deity's family of the demon race? Even if you agree, will the people of the crane deity's family agree? Will the creatures of the cavern world agree? I'll leave the crane deity's family sooner or later." Upon hearing that, the crane deity fell silent. Indeed, as a human, Suyu couldn't seize the crane deity's family. Then, how could Suyu assist his only promising son, Hirushu, with peace of mind? After a moment of contemplation, the crane deity's voice was firm, as if he had made some kind of decision. "Fine, give my assistant a hand then." An extremely strong will was emitted from the soul-refining furnace. That was the will of a deity. Even the soul-refining furnace couldn't withstand it. The will rushed out of the crane deity's family and descended into the crane deity's cavern world. All the creatures that belonged to the crane deity's cavern world prostrated and trembled under this will, worshipping respectfully, their hearts filled with grief. Heaven and earth, mountains and rivers, all emitted a sorrowful aura, all looking up at the heavens in the unseen world. My last will, firstly, the second son, Hirushu, shall inherit the position of the crane deity's family master, and all the people of the family shall assist Hirushu. Secondly, Suyu shall be the regent of the cavern world and take charge of everything on my behalf. From the lowly ants to the descendants of the deity, all shall obey my orders. I shall bestow upon him the divine name, Feather Deity. This is my last will. Those who disobey shall bear the curse of the deity and be consigned to eternal damnation. In an instant, the will was divided into billions of parts and submerged into the bodies of every living creature. Imperceptibly, they seemed to have an invisible shackle, and once they disobeyed, they would suffer a backlash. The Jing deity felt the will and was secretly surprised. Is the crane deity crazy? Why let Suyu take charge of the cavern world on his behalf and become a substitute deity? Putting aside the crane deity's hatred for Suyu, handing the entire cavern world to an outsider wasn't right. However, the Jing deity didn't stop it. After all, it wasn't a bad thing for the cavern world to fall into the hands of his own people. The creatures of the cavern world worshipped together and obeyed the will of the deity. Even the experts of the crane deity's family prostrated and worshipped after the shock, not daring to disobey. In this way, Suyu became the nominal and actual deity of the crane deity's cavern world. Feather deity. Suyu stood in the same place, looking calm, but his heart was in turmoil. After staring at the soul-refining furnace for a long time, Suyu sighed deeply. The crane deity is so bold. With the will of the crane deity, how could Suyu simply assist Hirushu? Obviously, he had become a substitute deity, which was equivalent to handing over the entire cavern world to Suyu. The intention of this move was also the crane deity's good intention. Now, in the world, only Suyu and the deity behind him could protect the crane deity's cavern world. Therefore, he wanted to give Suyu a title and bind him. If the crane deity's cavern world was in trouble in the future, could the feather deity, as a substitute deity, stay out of it? The answer was no. When Suyu reaped great rewards, he also received corresponding responsibilities. The enemies of the crane deity's family would certainly see Suyu as a thorn in their side, and these enemies would be transferred to Suyu. It was hard to say whether he would gain or lose. All right, this is all I can do for you. Activate the soul refining furnace, and you can make an expert out of the refined soul liquid. Although the hope of becoming a deity without my bloodline is slim, it won't be difficult for you to cultivate to the peak of the mortal fairy in the future. However, to the crane deity's surprise, he asked, "Why should I kill you? You want to let me go?" The crane deity was surprised. Suyu shook his head. No, a divine soul was too powerful for Suyu to control. You can live in another form. What form? Artifact spirit. The crane deity fell silent and said resolutely, "Forgive me, I can't promise you that. If I am an artifact spirit that will never be free, I might as well die here. When my strength grows to the point where you can't touch me anymore, I can let you go," Suyu said. The crane deity still shook his head. "Ha! I'm a deity, after all. How can I face being reduced to the weapon spirit of an immortal artifact?" "I'm talking about an Emperor-based Saint artifact," Suyu said calmly. The crane deity was taken aback. "You have an Emperor-based Saint artifact?" There was once a deity soul that volunteered to become the soul of a replica of an Emperor-based Saint weapon, hoping that one day, when the replica was upgraded to a real Emperor-based Saint weapon, the divine soul would be nourished and become a deity of a higher level. However, for a replica to become a real one, alas. "I meant it literally," Suyu said calmly. The crane deity was taken aback. "Are you talking about a genuine Emperor-based Saint artifact? What do you think?" Suyu asked. Hirushu looked at the two of them, then left tactfully. He didn't think it was a good idea to stay here and look at Suyu's Emperor-based Saint artifact. However, knowing that Suyu had an Emperor-based Saint artifact still shocked Hirushu. There were only 10 Emperor-based Saint weapons in the alliance of 100 gods. Shwa, starlight swirled around Suyu's right palm, emitting a brilliant Milky Way radiance. Buzz, 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 the soul refining furnace vibrated abruptly. The crane deity inside said in an excited and horrified voice, "Emperor-based Saint artifact, Milky Way star sand. The 21st Emperor-based Saint artifact." "Yes. Do you want to be an artifact spirit?" "I do. Let me be an artifact spirit." Before the crane deity answered, the excited voice of the tree goddess came from the 9 jade spiritual pearl. "I can warm your bed and give birth to little monkeys for you. Please let me be an artifact spirit." Suyu's mouth twitched. "Get lost. I am a goddess. Warming your bed and giving birth to little monkeys for you. Isn't that enough to satisfy a man's sense of conquest? Are you proud of being a bandit leader?" Of course, he didn't think the tree goddess really wanted to be an artifact spirit. Only a divine soul that had lost its divine position would choose to be an artifact spirit. However, their choice was usually only a top-grade fairy artifact. Those who were lucky would choose an Emperor-based Saint artifact. The day before yesterday, 6 repetitive chapters appeared on the internet. After discussing with the editor, we decided to revise some of the chapters. In this way, the readers who have subscribed to the repetitive chapters don't worry, because I have filled in the new content of today's update in the 6 repetitive chapters. Since you have subscribed, you don't need to spend extra money to read the next 6 chapters, starting from chapter 1145. This is the website's protection for the interests of the original readers. The readers who have bought the book can read the 6 chapters for free. However, after the revision, the readers who have bought the book might not be able to read the 6 chapters. This is because of the cell phone's cache. I have revised the 6 chapters, but you can't read it. There are 2 ways to solve this. The first is to clear the cell phone's cache. After that, you can log into QQ or read it on your reader. The second way is to delete the Divine 9-Dragon Cauldron from the bookshelf if you don't know how to clear the cache. Then, you can download the book again. Then, you can read the updated chapters. Chapter 1150. The day before yesterday, there were 6 repetitive chapters on the internet. After discussing with the editor, we decided to revise some of the chapters. In this way, the readers who have subscribed to the repetitive chapters don't have to worry, because I have filled the 6 repetitive chapters with today's new content. Since you have already subscribed, you don't need to spend extra money to read the next 6 chapters, starting from chapter 1145. This is to protect the interests of the original readers. Those who have purchased the book can read the 6 chapters for free. However, those who have purchased the book might not be able to read the 6 chapters after the revision. This is because of the cell phone's cache. You can't read it after I revised it. There are 2 ways to solve this. The first is to clear the cell phone's cache. After that, you can log into QQ or a reader to read it. The second is to delete the Divine 9-Dragon Cauldron from the bookshelf if you don't know how to clear the cache. Then, you can download the book again, and you will see the updated chapters. Dear readers, please tell each other when you see it. If those who have purchased the repetitive chapters still can't read the updated content, please contact me in the book review section. I will answer them one by one. I promise you won't waste your money. Below is the text. It was really a great achievement to get an Emperor-based Saint artifact. It was not difficult to recover his godly spirit after thousands of years of nourishment with the power of the Emperor-based Saint artifact. Besides, if the grade of the Emperor-based Saint artifact was not low, he could step into a higher level of deity. As a dying deity, it was not easy for the crane deity to find a replica of the Emperor-based Saint artifact as the artifact spirit, let alone a real one, not to mention the one ranked 21st. In the Great Eastern Continent Alliance, the highest grade of the Emperor-based Saint artifact was ranked more than 1,000. The crane deity didn't even dare to think about ranking 21st. I'm willing. The crane deity agreed immediately. His voice was filled with ecstasy. His resentment towards Suyu vanished instantly. This was 100 times better than his situation when he was at the end of his rope. Suyu nodded. He opened the soul refining furnace and released the crane deity. Then he opened the Milky Way star sand and let the divine soul of the crane deity enter it. With the addition of a soul, Suyu felt the Milky Way star sand was more spiritual. Suyu, Master. The crane deity was a little embarrassed as he had just become an artifact spirit. I need 2 months to integrate myself into the sacred artifact so that I can become a real artifact spirit. Suyu nodded. Master, there seems to be some sort of restriction within the Saint artifact. After a while, the crane deity said, if you don't break the restriction, I'm afraid you won't be able to refine this Emperor-based Saint artifact, and if it's seized by the enemy, it'll belong to someone else. Suyu said, yes, I know. I need to meet someone. When Tianjizi had given the Milky Way star sand to Suyu, he had stated 2 conditions. First, kill Blood Emperor. This mission had been completed. The second was to inform Yun Xiaxinzi of her last words. There was no rosy cloud fairy in Jiuzhou. The only possibility was the Great Eastern Alliance. Suyu had inquired about this person, but there was no such person. At least, Yin Xia Fairy's reputation in the Great Eastern Alliance was not too great. After thinking for a moment, Suyu asked, "Have you heard of a person called Rosy Cloud Fairy?" Crane deity pondered. "No. If she is famous, I should know her." Suyu was not disappointed. He nodded and said, "All right, be patient and become the holy artifact's holy spirit." All of a sudden, Suyu sensed the Jing deity's aura. "Is there any important connection between you and the Jing deity?" Upon hearing that, the crane deity's expression was complicated. Now that things had come to this, there was nothing to hide. He told Suyu about the carnival of all gods. The carnival of all gods? Hearing that, Suyu felt the crane deity and the Jing deity were really audacious. However, Suyu's eyes lit up. "Ha ha, feather deity, congratulations." The Jing deity arrived with a smile. He couldn't figure out what means Suyu had used to force the crane deity to convey such a will. Suyu smiled. "Jing deity, you must be joking. I'm just a substitute deity." "Haha, don't be modest. Sheng Yuanxin took a fancy to you, which means you're outstanding." The Jing deity's words were 70 to 80% sincere. From an outsider without any foundation, he had become a substitute deity. The change was really earth-shattering. At the mention of Sheng Yuanxin, Suyu knew the Jing deity's purpose for coming. "I believe that Miss Yuanxin is well prepared for the carnival of all gods. We're just waiting for the right time." The Jing deity was completely relieved to hear this. He glanced around and said with a smile, "Yes, this is not a good thing to talk about. We have a tacit understanding. Please tell Sheng Yuanxin that I am ready." Suyu nodded and chatted with him for a while. Then, the Jing deity led the army and left. Soon, the news spread in the two cavern worlds. The feather god and the Jing deity secretly reached an agreement. The Jing deity retreated without any conditions and did not ask for any resources. The Jing deity came in a threatening manner, but he left just like that. It really caused a lot of discussion. Not long after, news came from the Jing deity's side. The Jing deity had a face-to-face meeting with Suyu and was very impressed by him. He also confirmed Suyu's identity as the reincarnation of the 9 dragons. These words were said by the Jing deity himself. There was no way to refute it. The huge waves of shock and astonishment swiftly spread throughout the entire Eastern Divine region. Yang Tai's intelligence network covered the entire continent, so he was shocked speechless when he heard the news. After reading the thick pile of materials, Yang Tai paced back and forth in the room with a complicated expression. "Young master, this old servant is willing to share your worries." Yang Tai snorted angrily. "Share my worries? Don't tell me you can ease the relationship between me and Suyu?" "Suyu?" The old man blinked his eyes. "What happened to Suyu? What happened?" Yang Tai let out a long sigh. "He became a deity." "Ah." The old man opened his mouth abruptly, as if he had heard a fairy tale. "Young master, you must be joking. The last time I saw him, he was just a stage 1 all-creation deity," Yang Tai said with a smile. "Cultivation is nothing. The current feather god is the leader of the crane deity's family. Alas, what a great scheme. What an unpredictable scheme. First, he killed a deity, then he became a deity. He didn't just gain a foothold here. In the future, when we meet him, we will have to call him Feather God." Yang Tai's mood was quite complicated. In the eyes of outsiders, the battle between the crane deity and the Jing deity was quite reasonable. After all, both of them had killed their son and daughter. However, Yang Tai's intuition told him that Suyu must have played a part in it. Especially in the end, the crane deity, who was determined to kill Suyu, left a preposterous will, which was unprecedented, to make Suyu, his enemy, a substitute deity. Yang Tai was sure that such an unusual thing must have been done by Suyu. Killing a deity was something that Yang Tai didn't even dare to think about. However, Suyu managed to accomplish it without batting an eyelid. Hearing the whole process, the old man took a deep breath. "Young master, could it be that this guy is the reincarnation of a deity? Isn't his scheming ability too horrible?" Yang Tai sighed. "Yes, it is more horrible every time. As an ant in the mortal world, he can kill a deity. Now, as one of the 100 deities of the Great Eastern Alliance, I have no doubt that he has the ability to move the entire alliance of 100 deities. However, such a person is hostile to me. Until now, Yang Tai regretted his advice to Suyu, which caused a gap between him and Suyu. The old man saw through the young master's mind and said, "Young master, why don't we help him?" Yang Tai said with a wry smile, "As one of the 100 deities, what else does he need help for? Providing timely help is better than icing on the cake." Yeah, I heard the young master of the book deity is very hostile to Suyu. Last time, he sent someone to assassinate Suyu. Yang Tai had been paying attention to the war between the two cavern worlds recently. Hearing this, his eyes lit up. Yes, start to pay attention to the information about the book deity's cavern world. In the book deity's cavern world, the young master of the book deity, Qin Feichen, listened to Wucho's report with a hint of worry on his calm face. After a while, he sighed softly. "I've underestimated him. I've missed the best chance to capture him." Now, Suyu was one of the 100 deities. Although he was just a substitute deity, his status was not fake. If they failed to catch him, the book deity would be the target of public criticism. Moreover, it would be 100 times more difficult to catch him. He was in charge of the crane deity's cavern world and was surrounded by many powerful experts. Moreover, he was a friend of the Jing deity. The words that he said Su Yu was the reincarnation of the 9 dragons were enough to prove the Jing deity's attitude. If they wanted to catch him, they would have to consider another deity. However, these were not important. The most important thing was that Su Yu had led Sheng Yuanxin to the book deity's family. This move was what worried Qin Feichen the most and what made him the most uneasy. Once Sheng Yuanxin found out what Qin Kuo had done, he would be in big trouble. Therefore, seeing that Su Yu was getting stronger, Qin Feichen did not dare to act rashly, for fear that Sheng Yuanxin would find out something. As a result, Su Yu was getting stronger and stronger. It was inconvenient for him to take action again, which was really troublesome. Wucho rolled his eyes. "Young master, why don't you leave this matter to an outsider?" "Outsider? An outsider that I can trust?" Qin Feichen sneered. It was better to have one less person in this matter. How could he let an outsider know about it? Wucho laughed. "Young master, have you forgotten the group of dead souls wandering in the darkness in the world of divine remains? As long as you spend money, you can definitely complete the task." Qin Feichen raised his eyebrows slightly and fell in a deep thought. Wucho continued, "There is still half a year before the Carnival of All Gods. At that time, Su will appear together with the 100 deities, which will completely confirm his title as the Feather Deity. It will be extremely difficult to take action at that time. Therefore, the only way is to eliminate him before that. Those people in the world of divine remains never fail as long as they are paid." Hearing that, Qin Feichen nodded slowly. "Okay, you handle this matter. Inform them to kill Suyu. Don't hesitate to pay any price, even if you have to send out the prospective deities of the world of divine remains." He had given up hope of capturing Suyu alive. It was too difficult to do so. He only hoped to kill Suyu. Yes, Sheng Yuanxin was dealing with official business in the Alliance Hall. When she heard that the war between the two caverns ended with the death of the crane deity, she did not care about it at all. Such a war was rare, but it was not strange at all. Anyway, judging from the general trend, the two would fight sooner or later. However, when she heard that Suyu had become a deity, she was surprised. No way. How'd this guy do it? When she went to the crane deity's family, she clearly felt that Suyu was under house arrest rather than a guest. How could he turn from a prisoner to a feather deity in the blink of an eye? Thinking that even someone as smart as Yang Tai was afraid of him, Sheng Yuanxin stuck out her tongue. "This guy's really a schemer." "Captain Yuan, who are you talking about?" Beside her, a gentle male voice sounded. He was a human and one of the 3 experts of the Sinluo law enforcing team stationed in the Alliance Hall. His name was Burui, and he was also a descendant of the sword deity. His whole body was emitting a sharp sword essence. Even his pupils were in the shape of swords. After being asked, Sheng Yuanxin said naturally He is the newly promoted feather deity. I heard the Jing deity admitted that he is the reincarnation of 9 dragons. Sheng Yuanxin said, he is a very smart deity. I didn't expect he would become a deity so quickly. What a surprise. It seemed to her that Su Yu could become a deity without any problem. After thinking for a while, Sheng Yuanxin said, he is a human just like you. Haven't you heard of him?